Welcome back to Ronin Recap. Hope you enjoy this new video. Comment down below if you have any suggestions. Enjoy.
At this time, Locke also put down the magic book and watched the following battle with great interest. The rest of the level 2 magical beasts also rushed toward the others. Looking at the oncoming level 2 musk ox, Camp's face turned pale and he began to be a little flustered. Fortunately, compared to the other magical beasts, the speed of the musk ox was not fast. In a hurry, he condensed the level 2 magic and smashed it at the huge musk ox. The pangolin, the warthog, the anteater, the armadillo, and the previous blue star wolf spider rushed straight towards the crowd where Bryce and the others were. Although they were a little scared, the students of Class 1 were also the most talented students of the Shalar Magic Academy, who had some strength and reacted quickly. So they quickly condensed magic in their hands and threw them in the direction of magical beasts. The level 1 magic precisely landed on magical beasts. Bang! However, the power of level 1 magic only slowed the magical beasts down a bit and could not cause substantial damage to them at all. It's time for us to take action. Looking at the roaring magical beasts, Bryce said slowly. Cindy, Marcia and the others nodded, with firmness in their eyes. They had trained for so long, and now it was time to show their achievements and prove themselves. Bryce said his plan. Cindy, Marcia and I are in charge of the main attack. Service, Matthew, and Eric, please wait for the opportunity to make a move. As he spoke, he looked at the other 4 people. You 4 use magic to lock them in a range and cut off their route of retreat. Okay. Everyone nodded. After the discussion, the students of Class 4 were also ready to make a move. They saw that Bryce and the others gathered the fire element in front of them, and a small red ball appeared in the palm of Bryce and the others. Hissed Tilda. Looking at the red ball in the hands of Bryce and the others, the people of Class 1 widened their eyes and took a deep breath. As level 1 mages, they were very familiar with the fireball spell, so they were very sure that Bryce and the others used the most basic level 1 fireball spell. But why was the fireball so small? Didn't the tutor say that for the low-level fireball spell, the bigger the fireball, the more powerful it was? Besides, didn't they say that the people in Class 4 are losers? Didn't they say that everyone in Class 4 was receiving useless training? Then what was going on now? Judith, who was standing on a tree in the distance, was also shocked. In the crimson fireball, she felt a violent aura. Move. As soon as Bryce finished his words, a small red ball was thrown toward the magical beasts. The magical beasts, who were running, paused for a moment, but did not choose to fight the ball head-on. They directly turned their heads and dodged to the other side. Boom. The 10 fireballs exploded at the same time. From the center of the explosion, a powerful shock wave spread out, and the nearest warthog was directly thrown away by the strong shock wave. Other beasts also rolled on the ground several times before stopping. The blue star wolf spider moved the fastest and suffered the least impact, so it was the fastest to react. Howled Tilda. Glaring at Bryce and the others with its bloodshot eyes, it roared angrily and swore to tear up the humans in front of it. The blue star wolf spider charged toward Bryce and the others. Without much panic on his face, Bryce threw the fireball in his hand toward the blue star wolf spider. It seemed that it had already understood Bryce's skill. The blue star wolf spider jumped into the air and avoided the magic of Bryce. At the same time, he suddenly felt the magic with burning breath flying towards him. Fireballs were like falling meteors, streaking with a dazzling red luster. These fireballs seemed to be aiming at itself. With one foot hooked on a branch beside, the blue star wolf spider wanted to use the power of the branch to move its body to avoid the fireball. However, it was too late. Fireball had arrived in front of it. Boom. In the huge firelight, the body of the blue star wolf spider was blown away. He looked carefully and found that all the spikes on its body had been burned clean by the flames. Its whole body was charred and its breath was weak. It seemed that it could not live. Seeing that the 10 people defeated the level 2 magical beast in such a short time, Locke nodded with satisfaction. Well, they cooperated well this time and didn't waste such a long time of training. As he spoke, he changed a more comfortable posture and leaned against the tree trunk. Of course, the purity of fire element is not enough. Otherwise, if 10 fireballs went down, this spider would have died. The battle underground was quite fierce. Although there was a blue star wolf spider missing, the rest of the magical beasts didn't retreat at all and attack the crowd. Chris, stop them. Ha ha, leave it to me. Boom, boom, boom. The sounds of explosions rang out in the jungle. The students of Class 1 stood in the distance, and many of them began to be stunned. What did they see? A group of level 1 mages was fighting against 5 level 2 magical beasts. Moreover, it seemed that the 5 level 2 magical beasts cannot resist at all. Was it real? If such a group of people was losers, then what were we? Houseman was probably the one who had the most complicated mood. The person he had laughed at many times turned into a genius all of a sudden. In addition to his mixed feelings, there was also an unspeakable sense of shame. Joanna, who was fighting with the snow leopard, was also shocked when she saw the explosion not far away. So powerful. When Joanna was distracted, the snow leopard had already rushed in front of her. Her face changed slightly and condensed a fire shield in front of her. Bang! Although Joanna had blocked the attack of the snow leopard, she was still thrown out by the huge impact. Howled Tilda. The snow leopard roared and continued to rush towards Joanna. Seeing this, her face turned a little pale. The strong impact made her unable to control her body at all. She could only watch the snow leopard rushing over and could not avoid it at all. However, even though Joanna was in great danger, Judith didn't do anything. A figure was rushing towards Joanna. At this time, the snow leopard had already rushed in front of Joanna. Bang! A figure flashed over and kicked the snow leopard's head. The strong snow leopard was kicked away. Are you okay? Bryce held Joanna's arm and asked nervously. After Joanna steadied herself, she shook her head. Your favorite novels at NOVL.com. Seeing that Joanna was really fine, Bryce let out a sigh of relief. On the other side, Camp was more helpless than Joanna. He was no match for the musk ox at all. But fortunately, with the help of Marcia, his pressure was much less. Cindy led the other students of Class 1 to pin down magical beasts, such as the anteater. Since Bryce and Marcia were no longer here, it was difficult for them to deal with these magical beasts. Boom, boom, boom. Cindy and the others could only use magic to trap the 5 magical beasts in the middle, preventing them from running around. Ouch. The snow leopard stared at Bryce coldly, gritting its teeth. Its dark red eyes were full of hatred. The level 2 magical beast must have some wisdom. It didn't attack Bryce and Joanna at once. It turned around and rushed towards Cindy and the others. Obviously, it wanted to save the other magical beasts first. The musk ox immediately gave up Camp and Marcia and rushed towards Cindy and the others. Cindy and Service, watch out. To Bryce's surprise, it was Houseman who reminded them. Stop it. The students of Class 1 also came to their senses and hurriedly gathered magic in front of them and threw it at the snow leopard and the musk ox. Boom. Fire magic exploded one by one. Although it didn't cause much damage, the speed of the snow leopard and the musk ox still slowed down a lot. Cindy and the others also stepped back decisively, keeping a safe distance from the snow leopard and the musk ox. As for the anteaters, pangolins and other magical beasts also escaped from the blockade of Cindy. The 6 magical beasts gathered together and were suppressed by Cindy and the others for such a long time. All the magical beasts were angry and they were much more aggressive. Bryce, Joanna, Marcia and Camp also retreated quickly to the side of Cindy and the others. The two sides were in a stalemate again. Let's fight together. Bryce roared and threw the fireball in his hand towards 6 magical beasts. Joanna and the others nodded their heads without any pause and began to cast spells. Spectacular. Get your favorite novels at NOVL.com. On the tree, Locke couldn't help but exclaim. 30 people used their magic skills at the same time, and brilliant magic flew out one after another, making the whole ground shine with flames. With its agile body, the snow leopard easily dodged a fireball. Boom. However, it was a little late. Marcia's fireball hit it and it was thrown out directly. Before it could stand up, several more magic exploded on its body. Unsurprisingly, it lost consciousness in the sharp pain. They solved one level 2 magical beast in such a short time, which greatly increased the morale of everyone. The magic in their hands was quickly thrown toward magical beasts. Boom. A deafening sound came from the jungle. Seeing the following battle, Judith smiled with relief. The wind element wrapped around her body and flew towards Locke. Obviously, she was no longer needed in this battle. Puff. With the fall of the pangolins, the battle was completely over. Whoosh! A girl in Class 1 sat on the ground regardless of her image. The magic was continuously released, making the magic power in her body consumed up, and now she couldn't even lift a little magic power. Jana's forehead was also covered with sweat. Like others, there was not much magic power left in her body. When she sat down to rest, she kept looking in the direction of Bryce. So did the other students in Class 1. The contempt in their eyes had already disappeared. Houseman walked towards Bryce. Seeing Houseman walking toward Bryce, the students of Class 1 were confused and didn't know what he wanted to do. In front of Bryce and the others, Houseman lowered his head slightly with a guilty look on his face and said, "Bryce, I apologize for my previous ignorance and arrogance." The other two students in Class 1 also stood up and apologized to Bryce and the others. "You can't just apologize." Looking at the three, Bryce shook his head. Hearing Bryce's words, Houseman's and the other two's faces darkened. Taking a deep breath, Houseman looked up at Bryce and said firmly, "As long as you can vent your anger, we won't fight back even if you beat us." Bryce stood up expressionlessly and walked to Houseman. Seeing Bryce come to him, Houseman kept his words and closed his eyes, as if he was waiting to be beaten. "We will never fight back." Seeing that Houseman was so determined, the other two students gritted their teeth and said. However, half a day passed, and there was still no pain on his face. Houseman opened his eyes in confusion. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Bryce smile faintly. "Forget it. We just finished the battle and don't have the strength. But you have to invite us to a big meal after we go back to the academy." Houseman was a little stunned and didn't come to his senses for a while. Looking at the sincere smile on Bryce's face, he felt warm in his heart. After a while, he also laughed. Then his face darkened. He couldn't help saying, "How about you beat me up? I'm a little short of money recently." Ha ha. Hearing this, others were also amused. In the laughter, the tense atmosphere of the previous battle was swept away, and it was full of joy. Judith had already stood in the previous position. She took a look at Bryce and the others on the ground. Then she turned to Locke and asked slowly, "Did you teach them all the magic they used?" Locke put away the magic book, looked at Bryce and the others on the ground, smiled and nodded, obviously. Hearing Locke admit it, Judith's eyes narrowed and fixed on Locke's face. Locke stretched himself comfortably, stood up and patted the dust on his clothes. Looking at the depth of the Nariel mountains of magical beasts, he said, "I still have something to do. From now on, you will be responsible for their safety." He planned to go to the depths of the Nariel mountains of magical beasts alone to see what had happened that made the magical beasts in a violent state. Judith was stunned for a moment. Then she understood what Locke meant. She asked in a low voice, "Where are you going?" "It's a secret." Locke smiled mysteriously. Seeing that Locke didn't want to talk about it, Judith didn't get to the bottom of it. Instead, she reminded him in a cold voice, "Mr. Capet, I have to remind you that we are in training now. Your behavior is irresponsible to students. Moreover, although you are already a level 3 mage, there are many powerful level 4 and even level 5 magical beasts in the Nariel mountains of magical beasts." Looking at Judith's serious look, Locke suddenly wanted to tease her. He took a step in the direction of Judith. On the narrow tree trunk, the two were only 10 centimeters apart, and then his eyes were staring straight at her face. Being stared at by Locke, Judith felt uneasy. She took half a step back, trying to keep a safe distance from Locke. The next moment, she felt her feet slip and her body fell down uncontrollably. Then, she felt a pair of strong hands around her waist and gently lifted her up. Although Locke was only 16 years old, he was 1.8 meters tall now, half a head taller than Judith. The two hugged each other. Judith could even feel the breath of Locke across her face, which made her feel hot in her heart. In an instant, a blush climbed up Judith's ears. "Be careful." Locke's soft voice came to her ears. At this time, she finally came back to her senses and quickly got out of Locke's arms. Seeing Judith's embarrassed look, Locke smiled. Then he jumped into the depth of the Nariel mountains of magical beasts. Looking in the direction of Locke, Judith sighed and said angrily, "I didn't expect to be molested by a little guy today." Rustled Tilda. Among a well-disguised bush, a level 2 magical beast raised its head, with doubt in its slightly red eyes. Just now, it seemed to feel something flash in front of it. But when it felt carefully, it found nothing. Was it a wind? Shaking its head, the level 2 magical beast lowered its head again, patiently waiting for its prey to come. Locke, of course, was the one who had just passed by. At this time, he was still shuttling through the jungle at a fast speed. He could only see a blurry afterimage. The rugged mountain and the complicated jungle did not affect his speed. In the evening, he arrived at the middle of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. Howled Tilda. In the distance, a giant level 4 lizard was fighting with the magical beast like a rhinoceros. Their powerful bodies crashed into many huge trees. At this time, the battle became white-hot. The long snake tried to wrap around the giant lizard's body, but was directly pushed open by the rhinoceros horn. It had no choice but to bite the giant lizard's neck. Bang! The snake was trampled to the ground by the giant lizard. The battle between the two magical beasts stirred up a cloud of dust. If I had known it earlier, I would have brought Sleipnir here. Leaning against the rock, Locke enjoyed the wonderful battle in the distance while eating the picked apple in the sun. If he were Sleipnir, he might have reached the depth of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. However, as time went by, Locke was still surprised. He had met a lot of level 4 magical beasts in the middle circle, which was totally different from the last time he came. According to his observation, these magical beasts were all affected by this mysterious energy, which made them become level 4 magical beasts in a short time. Moreover, the magical beasts who were infected with the energy of magical beasts could not only improve the cultivation base, but also increase the beast nature, which would make them irritated, so there were fights between magical beasts everywhere. Read latest chapters at NOVELB and Company per meter. Compared with the periphery, the mysterious energy here was more intense, and it gave people a very evil feeling, making him very comfortable. What happened? After all, Badal is a dragon. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Locke murmured as he looked deep into the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. The battle in the distance was close to the end. The long snake, which was dozens of meters long, finally defeated the giant lizard and became the winner. Locke had finished eating the apple. After throwing the apple core on the ground, Locke stood up and looked in the direction of the snake. His eyes narrowed slightly. All of a sudden, the sword in the stone appeared in his hand. Holding the sword in the stone, he directly rushed to the snake. The long snake had experienced a life-and-death battle, and it didn't expect such a human to suddenly appear. Before it came to its senses, it was stabbed by Locke. Boom! The long snake's body smashed heavily onto the ground, creating a crater. Although I can't sell it now, the flesh and blood are worth some money. After quickly putting the two huge corpses into the system space, Locke continued his journey. In order not to affect his journey, Locke tried his best to avoid level 4 magical beasts, in case of conflict and wasting time on his journey. Most importantly, he was now alone in the middle of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. If he made too much noise and was discovered by other magical beasts, he would definitely be beaten up by them. 2 hours later, Locke stopped again. 4 magical beasts appeared in front of him, and the 4 magical beasts were running quickly toward periphery of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. And they are the 4th group of magical beasts towards the periphery of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. Hiding among the leaves, Locke hid all his breath to avoid being found by some sensitive magical beasts. This is the omen of a surge of magical beasts. Looking at the interior of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts, Locke rubbed his temples and felt a headache. If the teams of the Academy met these magical beasts, they would definitely be completely annihilated. After a moment of silence, Locke sighed slightly and turned around to retreat. She planned to send Bryce and the others safely out of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts before coming in to investigate. I didn't expect it to be so troublesome this time. When I go back to the Shalar Magic Academy, I will ask Mallory for more benefits. After saying that, Locke rushed towards the periphery. This time he directly chose the nearest route and rushed over. Howl! A level 4 magical beast roared. There were humans in its territory. It ran towards Locke with rage. However, after half an hour, it couldn't find any trace of Locke. Bang! The magical beast roared angrily, breaking a huge tree beside it with one claw. Ouch! The next moment, the roar of another magical beast came. In just a short while, another level 4 magical beast appeared in front of the magical beast. Seeing that the magical beast had broken into his territory, the other magical beast directly rushed up. The two magical beasts fought in a melee. Because of Locke, there was another conflict in the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. On the periphery of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts, just as Locke had expected, Bryce and the others did meet magical beasts. He met 4 level 3 magical beasts at one time. Bryce and the others could resist the level 2 magical beasts slightly, but they couldn't resist the level 3 magical beasts at all. Therefore, when the 4 level 3 magical beasts appeared, Judith showed up without hesitation and killed 2 magical beasts very quickly. Bang! Joanna and Bryce, take everyone back. Judith shouted at Joanna, Bryce and the others as she retreated a level 3 magical beast. She didn't expect that there would be so many level 3 magical beasts on the periphery. It seemed that the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts was no longer suitable for training. Bryce and Joanna didn't waste any time and quickly organized other people to retreat in the direction they came. Ouch! At this time, an earth-shaking roar came to everyone's ears. Damn it! Hearing the roar, Judith, who had just killed a level 3 magical beast, suddenly changed his face. Level 4 magical beasts. Level 4 magical beasts appeared here. Don't look back. Let's go. Judith shouted at the stunned Bryce and the others. Hearing Judith's reminder, Bryce and the others also came to their senses. Suppressing the panic in their hearts, they ran again. As the night fell, the whole Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts was shrouded in darkness. The bright moonlight passed through layers of leaves and reflected a sad beam of light in the forest. The sound of burning wood could be heard in a jungle with the flat ground outside the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. Looking for the sound, the young men sat around the bonfires, looking tired. Many of their clothes had been scratched by the branches of the shrubs, and their faces were stained with black soil, looking very embarrassed. Bryce, can we get out of here safely? Cindy rested her head on Bryce's lap, looked at the starry sky and asked softly. Hearing Cindy's question, Bryce was stunned and couldn't help recalling the dangerous experience this afternoon. At first, 3 level 3 magical beasts appeared, and then another level 4 magical beast appeared. They had planned to use the transmission runes to escape. However, what made them feel desperate was that the transmission runes seemed to have been destroyed and all of them failed to form the teleportation site. Fortunately, Judith was strong enough to kill level 3 magical beasts, and she even blocked level 4 magical beasts alone, which bought them time to escape. The following journey was also exceptionally difficult. Everyone encountered a lot of magical beasts, and even level 3 magical beasts. However, because of the presence of Judith, the level 4 mage with double magic, they finally withstood several attacks from magical beasts. To everyone's surprise, as they moved towards the edge of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts, there was no sign of a decrease in the surrounding magical beasts, not only had not decreased, but was even gradually increasing. Although Judith had beaten back magical beasts, they retreated at a slow speed, less than half of the speed when they came. After a day's battle, everyone was already exhausted. Bryce took a deep breath, forced a smile on his face and said firmly, "Of course, we can go out. Not to mention Miss Maple, our boss must have known that we are in danger. He must be rushing here now." Cindy nodded. At this time, a figure was running over quickly in the distance. This man was Camp, who was responsible for guarding. Looking at Camp, who was sweating buckets and anxious, everyone jumped up from the ground and carefully guarded him. After such a long time of training, they had witnessed the terrifying power of the Narial Mountains of Magical Beasts. They were no longer arrogant and ignorant young men at the beginning, but now they were in a state of tension. Get your favorite novels at notevelb.com. Finally, Camp was in front of everyone. What happened? Judith also woke up from practice and asked seriously. Everyone also looked at Camp. Looking at the pale-faced Camp, they knew that things were not simple. Looking at the crowd, Camp said in a trembling voice, "In the distance, 3 level 3 magical beasts and 1 level 4 magical beast are coming this way. 3 level 3 magical beasts, and 1 level 4 magical beast." Everyone couldn't help but tremble, and the panic in their eyes gradually turned into a strong fear. "We're doomed. We're doomed. With so many powerful magical beasts, we definitely can't resist them. Calm down. Don't panic." Judith's cold voice rang in everyone's ears. She decisively said, "Everyone, give up all your things and retreat immediately." Hearing this, everyone didn't hesitate at all. They didn't even have time to pack up their living things and immediately rushed in the direction they had planned to escape. After a long journey, Bryce and the others gradually had the advantage of physical strength. Gradually, Bryce became one of the leaders of the students. At this speed, we still have at least 2 days to walk out of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. While running, Bryce said anxiously, I just hope that these magical beasts will change their direction halfway, otherwise. After a pause, Bryce didn't go on, but both Joanna and Lamp knew what he meant. If they encountered these magical beasts, perhaps no one here could escape. Everyone was running wildly in the jungle. Boom. However, at this time, a roar came from the distance. At the same time, on the road they had just passed, the trees collapsed, and 3 huge figures appeared in front of them. Behind the 3 magical beasts, there was a more powerful figure. It was a level 4 tiger, 4 or 5 meters high. Bryce and Joanna, take the students first. I'll cover a retreat. Looking at the 4 magical beasts, Judith's face changed and said directly. Bryce nodded his head and didn't refuse. Now he only was a level 1 mage, and he didn't play any role at all. Seeing that some people were even frightened to stand still, Bryce shouted, please move if you don't want to die. Bryce's voice woke everyone up. Regardless of everything, they began to run away. Ouch! A powerful roar came. Without any hesitation, Judith opened the magic element in front of her. Soon, the powerful magic of level 4 was condensed in front of her. Boom! The magic hit the level 3 wolf in the middle. Puff! The wolf was hit by the magic and fell heavily to the ground, badly mutilated. The other 2 level 3 magical beasts quickly jumped away and avoided the attack of the magic. Although they were not affected by the magic of Judith, the 2 level 3 magical beasts stopped and stared at Judith viciously. Click, click. The 2 level 3 magical beasts stepped back, and the level 4 tiger-shaped magical beast slowly walked up and looked at Judith up and down with its big eyes. Seeing that all the magical beasts had stopped, Judith breathed a sigh of relief. The level 3 wolf was the weakest among these magical beasts. Although it was a piece of cake for her, it was a great danger to her students, so she chose to kill it first. Ouch! The tiger-shaped magical beast roared and 2 level 3 magical beasts rushed towards Judith. Looking at the magical beasts rushing towards him, Judith looked calm. With the help of the wind magic, she quickly retreated to avoid the bite of the magical beast, and at the same time, fire magic attacked it. Bang! A level 3 magical beast was sent flying. However, it was obvious that the magical beast was much stronger than the wolf. After being attacked by the level 4 magic, it could even shake its body and stand up. Seeing that Judith was safe and sound, the tiger-shaped magical beast became angry. He roared and rushed towards Judith. Despite its huge body, it moved agilely. In the blink of an eye, it had already rushed in front of Judith. Seeing that the tiger-shaped magical beast came in front of her in an instant, Judith's face finally changed. She couldn't escape at all. Helplessly, she waved her hands and quickly condensed a shield in front of her. Bang! Under the huge impact, Judith quickly retreated more than 10 meters, but finally stabilized her body. On the other side, Bryce and the others were still running. Pang! Pang! At this time, a bird's shrill sound rang in everyone's ears. A hurricane swept over, causing everyone to fall to one side, and the sand in the hurricane made them unable to open their eyes. They could only vaguely see a huge black shadow descending in front of them. Finally, the hurricane disappeared, and everyone was able to see the scene in front of them again. However, when they saw the creature in front of them clearly, everyone's heart trembled and they took a step back subconsciously. It was a creature with light brownish-yellow head and neck, brown back and abdomen, and a handful of white tail feathers. This is the level 4 white-tail hawk. Looking at the creature that stood up 7 or 8 meters high, Camp said in a trembling voice. Another level 4 magical beast appeared. Staring at Bryce and the others, the white-tailed hawk did not make a move immediately. Its sharp eyes revealed a ferocious and playful expression. Looking at the white-tailed hawk, everyone felt desperate. Damn it! A level 4 magical beast. Judith, who was fighting with the tiger in the distance, suddenly changed her face. With a spin of her body, she dodged the attack of the tiger and flew towards Bryce and the others. With the help of the magical beast, the surrounding magical beasts gradually formed a pincer attack, which was completely trying to kill everyone. Clang! The white-tailed hawk growled, and a horn-shaped sound wave came in the direction of everyone. Damn it! Facing the white-tailed hawk of level 4, Bryce and the others felt powerless. While Bryce and the others were helpless, Judith quickly condensed a huge magic shield and blocked it in front of them. Crack! Under the strong sound wave, the condensed magic shield broke directly, and Judith was also thrown out. Fortunately, Joanna jumped up and caught Judith, but the two still retreated more than 10 meters due to the inertia. Miss Maple. Protect Miss Maple. Seeing that Judith was injured, Bryce and the others immediately used magic to hit the white-tailed hawk. However, the giant hawk didn't even blink its eyes in the face of the level 1 magic. Pang! The white-tailed hawk let out a long cry. Puff! The two students who were close to each other were knocked out by the powerful sound wave. At this time, the tiger-shaped magical beast and the severely injured level 3 magical beast in the distance also caught up and instantly formed a pincer attack. Retreat over there! Bryce shouted, pointing to the other side. The boys picked up the fainted students and ran to the side. At this time, Judith also recovered. She stood in front of Bryce and the others, casting magic from time to save time for Bryce and the others. 10 minutes later. There's no way out here. A student shouted desperately, looking at the stone wall in front of him. Bryce turned his head and saw a cliff-shaped stone wall in front of him. Looking at the approaching magical beast, the students' faces were pale and bloodless, and their despair reached its peak. If it was a level 2 magical beast, they could also fight against it. Even if a level 3 magical beast appeared, they could resist it. But now, there were 2 powerful level 4 magical beasts. Even if they went up together, they could not do any harm to it. When Bryce and the others were besieged, Locke had arrived at the periphery of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. Sizz. The sword in the stone in his hand was pulled out from the heart of the level 4 magical beast. It seems that they really meet magical beasts. Looking around at the burning marks of fire magic skill and the obvious fighting marks, Locke's eyes darkened slightly. Soon, he found the direction where Bryce and the others left. After confirming the direction, he jumped up quickly and chased after that direction. At the same time, the white light flew out of his hand and headed for a bush. Sizz. A muffled sound was heard from the bushes. It was the sound of a sharp blade piercing through flesh and blood. Puff! The body of a level 3 magical beast rolled out of the shrubs. With a closer look, it was a magical beast like the mouse. The mouse-shaped magical beast, which was good at hiding, wanted to sneak attack the level 4 magical beast, but Locke intervened and cleared up the level 4 magical beast in advance. Perhaps it was because it saw the power of Locke that the magical beast did not act rashly. After killing the level 3 magical beast, the sword in the stone took a sharp turn and soon caught up with the running Locke. Seeing sword in the stone come back, he sped up a little bit, leaving many shadows along the way. At the same time, he sneered, "It's just a small level 3 magical beast. How dare you want to plot against me?" However, he had to admit that the hiding skill of the magical beast was very superb. Even the previous level 4 magical beast was not found. If he didn't have the divine consciousness, he probably wouldn't have found it. Just as Locke was rushing toward them, Bryce and the others were also in a desperate situation. Judith confronted the tiger-shaped magical beast and the level 3 magical beast. At this time, she was very serious and nervous, and her forehead was covered with sweat. After several rounds, she was at an obvious disadvantage. As for the white-tailed hawk of level 4, it flapped its wings and blew out a purple energy ball from time to time, exploding Bryce and the others into pieces. Looking at the frightened and helpless crowd, it let out a cry and enjoyed the pleasure of playing with its prey. Boom! Another purple energy ball exploded with dust. Flying. Hiding behind the masks, everyone's face was extremely pale, and they were in complete despair. Cindy. Looking at the white-tailed hawk in the distance, Bryce suddenly shouted. Behind the huge tree, hearing Bryce calling her suddenly, Cindy, who was in a tense state, turned around in confusion. "Find new updates on NOVELB and COM." Bryce pulled her into his arms. Then, she felt a hot breath covering her lips. Cindy's eyes widened and the two looked at each other. If it was in normal times, everyone might have already started to cheer, but at this life and death moment, seeing this scene, everyone could not help but feel a little sad. Not far from the two, Joanna leaned against a huge rock. Looking at the Bryce and Cindy hugging together, she showed an unpredictable smile on her face. At this moment, she sincerely felt happy for her unfamiliar brother. However, she looked into the distance. I don't know if I can see you again. A few seconds later, the two's lips parted. Looking at Bryce, Cindy blushed. At the same time, Bryce's eyes narrowed and he became more and more excited. He took a deep breath and suppressed the excitement in his heart. He looked at the students of Class 1 beside him and slowly asked, "Do you still remember the scene when our boss taught us the fireball spell?" The others were slightly stunned and then nodded. Cindy nodded and said excitedly, 10 fireballs directly exploded half of the training ground. At that time, even the teachers in the Office of Academic Affairs were attracted by it. That power. While they were talking, Cindy was stunned. She seemed to have thought of something and asked slowly, "Do you want to?" Bryce nodded affirmatively. At this time, the others also came to their senses. The power of the 10 fireballs was absolutely comparable to that of the level 3 magic. If the 10 gathered all the fireballs together, they might be able to fight against the white-tailed hawk. Just as everyone was excited, Marcia's eyes darkened. But, none of us can control 10 fireballs. The others were also splashed with cold water, and the flames of hope that had just been ignited were instantly extinguished. We can only rely on ourselves at this time. Looking at the depressed students, Bryce said in a deep voice, "Either way, it's better to fight in such a dangerous situation." The others looked at each other, their eyes full of struggle. "Yes. Let's fight it out." Finally, Eric's face darkened and said fiercely, "In that case, let's go crazy." After struggling, the others gritted their teeth and said, there was no worse situation than now. Seeing that they had reached an agreement, Bryce looked firm and said slowly, "Let me do it." "Okay." The others nodded. Seeing the determination on the faces of Bryce and those who were ready to fight, the others were stunned for a while. Now they were facing level 4 magical beasts. Bryce and the others soon gathered together, preparing to condense the fireball spell. The only problem now was time. It would take some time to gather the fireballs together, but at this time, the white-tailed hawk was staring at everyone with covetous eyes. Looking in the direction of Anna, Bryce's eyes were full of struggle, regret and love. Finally, he took a deep breath. Sister. At this moment, he was relieved. No, but it was regret. He hated himself for ruining his relationship with his sister. Joanna suddenly raised her head and her eyes were filled with tears. It was the first time Bryce had called her like that in so many years. Looking at Joanna, his eyes turned red. Bryce shouted, "Save time for us." Taking a deep breath, Joanna smiled gracefully and looked at Bryce. With a smile, she said, "Okay, my dear. Brother." Bang! The magic in Joanna's hand hit the white-tailed hawk. "Hey, stupid bird." Joanna jumped high, stood in the most conspicuous place and shouted. At the same time, the magic in her hand hit the head of the white-tailed hawk again. Clang! Looking at the little human who had provoked it, the white-tailed hawk was furious. With a roar, the white-tailed hawk grabbed towards the direction of Joanna. Joanna had already expected that. She quickly moved in the opposite direction of Bryce and the others. Boom! The rock under her feet was directly torn into pieces by the white-tailed hawk. "Stupid bird, this way." After dodging a blow, Joanna waved her hand and continued to shout. Seeing Joanna's provocation to the white-tailed hawk, people far away were stunned. Joanna was courting death. The white-tailed hawk roared and swore to tear Joanna into pieces. Bang! However, before it could move, another magic ball hit its head. "Hey, idiot, this way." Camp also shouted. The white-tailed hawk roared and rushed towards Camp, intending to crush Camp first. Camp took a deep breath and tried to run away from Bryce and the others. However, the white-tailed hawk was a level 4 magical beast, and its speed was much faster than the level 1 mage like Camp. In just a few seconds, the white-tailed hawk had arrived in front of Camp. The wings of the white-tailed hawk swept towards Camp. Boom! Camp was thrown into the air. Puff! Inside the stone tablet, Camp spat out a mouthful of black blood. Fortunately, he dodged the fatal attack just now, or he would be directly cut into pieces by the wings of the white-tailed hawk. However, even so, he still felt a burning pain in his chest and sharp pain in his limbs, unable to move for a moment. Seeing that Camp had lost its ability to move, the white-tailed hawk cried happily and continued to walk towards Camp, intending to know about Camp. At the same time, a flame flew out from a bush. Bang! Idiot, this way! Another student stood out and shouted defiantly. Clang! Giving up camp, the white-tailed hawk spat out an energy ball and threw it at the student's position. Boom! Hey, idiot, we are here! The students who were hiding came out one by one. Although they didn't know what tricks Bryce and the others had, they chose to believe it. At this time, they were fearless. Looking at the students running away under the attack of the white-tailed hawk, Bryce's and the others' eyes turned red, and Marcia's eyes were also wet with tears. With the joint efforts of the crowd, the white-tailed hawk gradually distanced itself from Bryce and others. Suppressing his inner feelings, Bryce's voice trembled slightly. He looked at Cindy and the others and said, "Let's start." Everyone took a deep breath, put aside the complicated emotions, and nodded. The demonic energy gathered in front of the 10 people, and dazzling red balls gradually appeared in the hands of Bryce and the others. More than 10 seconds later, many small red balls were completely formed, each containing a strong and irritable fire element. What did they want to do? Judith, who was entangled with the tiger-shaped magical beast, was stunned to see that the students were actually provoking the white-tailed hawk. While she was in shock, she suddenly noticed Bryce and the others who were condensing magic. They had grown up. Judith smiled with relief. At the same time, seeing that the students didn't give up, Judith suddenly felt energetic and attacked the tiger-shaped magical beast more fiercely. On the other side, seeing that the fireball had been condensed, Bryce nodded to Cindy and the others, indicating that he was ready. The first one to start was Cindy. She raised her hand and the fireball slowly slid in front of Bryce. Bryce didn't dare to be distracted. He took out a spirit power and wrapped up Cindy's fireball. All of a sudden, when his spirit power touched the fireball, Cindy's fireball trembled 2 times. It almost lost control. Fortunately, it was controlled by Bryce in the end. Under his comfort, the first fireball was smoothly transferred to his hand. Seeing that the first fireball had succeeded, everyone was relieved. Marcia also controlled her fireball and slowly flew towards Bryce. It seemed that with the experience for the first time, Bryce's spirit power was more precisely landing on Marcia's fireball, so this time it was surprisingly stable. Find new stories on November.com. About a minute later, Bryce already had 7 red balls in his hands. At this time, those who attracted the attention of the white-tailed hawk also felt a strong aura of the fire element. Looking at the small ball in Bryce's hand, many students couldn't help swallowing. This aura is so powerful. In the small ball, they felt a violent aura, which was absolutely more powerful than the level 2 magic they knew. 30 seconds passed. Finally, 10 small red balls had gathered in front of Bryce. His face was pale and his body was trembling slightly. Obviously, he had reached his limit. Camp was knocked into the air by the shock wave and fell to the ground. The white-tailed hawk slowly walked towards Camp, seeing that its sharp claws were about to crush on Camp. Doomed. Looking at the white-tailed hawk walking toward him, Camp shook his head with a bitter smile, and he was full of despair. Cindy and the others came out from behind the rock. They gathered the magic energy in their hands and condensed another fireball. Boom! 9 fireballs hit the white-tailed hawk. The white-tailed hawk stopped and turned around to look at Bryce and the others. It ignored Camp for a moment. It roared angrily. Bryce and the others were not afraid at all. They stood side by side and looked straight at the white-tailed hawk. Seeing 10 people suddenly walking out from the opposite, the sharp eyes of the white-tailed hawk revealed a puzzled expression, as if it did not understand what the 10 tiny people wanted to do. Bryce continued to carefully control the 10 fireballs, while Cindy and the others condensed the fireball again and threw it at the white-tailed hawk. When the fireball of Cindy and the others exploded, Bryce's eyes darkened. He roared and rushed towards the white-tailed hawk with his fireball. All his spirit power was placed on the control of the fireball, so he had no ability to push the fireball out, so he could only send the fireball to the side of the white-tailed hawk in person. This meant that he was also within the scope of the explosion of the fireball. Maybe he would die, but now he had no time to care about anything. There were 2 people he loved here. Therefore, even if he had to die, he had to stop the magical beast in front of him. Seeing that Bryce was running towards it, the white-tailed hawk let out a sharp cry. The purple energy ball quickly gathered in his mouth and shot towards Bryce. "Watch out!" Seeing this, the students in the distance shouted and reminded him. Puff! While running, Bryce bent his legs slightly and bounced up directly. Boom! The energy ball missed and left a big hole on the ground. The white-tailed hawk also flew toward Bryce, and its sharp claws directly scratched Bryce's body. "I just want you to come here." Looking at the white-tailed hawk coming towards him, Bryce smiled. Finally, the white-tailed hawk was only 1 meter away from Bryce. It was at this moment. Finding the right time, Bryce was about to throw the fireball out of his hand. When the fireball was about to get out of his control, a hint of cruelty flashed through Bryce's eyes. If fireball was integrated together, it might be more powerful. He knew clearly that the power of the explosion of 10 fireballs alone was not enough to cause substantial damage to the white-tailed hawk. Thinking of this, he directly controlled the fireball in his hand to crash into the other fireball, and then forcibly merge the 3 fireballs together. The balance between fireballs was broken in an instant. Different amounts of fire elements mixed and rejected. The scene in the fireball was like a spark falling on a pile of grass covered with tars, and all fire elements were out at the same time. Boom! The dazzling light of the fire lit up, and a deafening sound was heard. A strong shock wave began to sweep around from the explosion, causing all the students to take a step back. Sensing the powerful energy from afar, others were shocked. Was this really an attack that a level 1 mage could make? Did the group of kids from class 4 do this? Judith, who was far away, was also shocked when she felt the strong power of magical fluctuation. The strength of magical fluctuation was almost close to that of level 4. 10 level 1 mages made a magic attack comparable to that of level 4. Although she was shocked, she didn't slow down the movement of her hand. In an instant, she condensed level 4 magic and smashed it towards the tiger-shaped magical beast. Bryce! Cindy cried as she looked at Bryce, who was wrapped in flames in an instant. If it weren't for Marcia, she would have rushed over. Brother, Joanna's face was extremely pale, and a line of coolness slid down her face. The others couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh in their hearts. Under such a powerful attack, Bryce was fraught with grim possibilities. Everyone stared at the burning flames in the air. Clang! In the light of the fire, a huge figure leapt out. The source of this content N-O-V-L-by-N. The white-tailed hawk howled angrily. At this time, it was also in an extremely embarrassing state. The beautiful white feather at its tail had already been charred, and its whole body was charred black. However, although it looked very embarrassed outside, the aura it emitted was still incomparably powerful. Obviously, the explosion didn't really hurt it. The white-tailed hawk circled crazily in the sky and roared angrily. Nothing happened. Looking at the furious white-tailed hawk, the others felt powerless. Bryce! Tears streamed down Cindy's face as she looked at the fading flames. Under such a strong flame, Bryce had no chance of survival. Clang! However, to everyone's surprise, the white-tailed hawk did not immediately attack the rest of the people, but roared angrily at the flames that had not yet dissipated. In that pair of sharp and fierce eyes, everyone actually found a trace of fear. Was Bryce still alive? Everyone's eyes were also focused on the flames, trying to find Bryce. Finally, the flames gradually dispersed. A black shadow gradually appeared in the dispersed flames. "Oh, my God, he's fine." Pointing at the black figure in the flames, a sharp-eyed student screamed. "He is still alive. Bryce! Bryce!" The others also began to shout, happy that Bryce could survive. Hearing the shouts of the crowd, Cindy suddenly raised her head. When she saw the figure in the fire, her body trembled slightly, and her eyes full of tears were full of excitement. No, this was not Bryce's height. When the blurry figure gradually became clear, Cindy immediately found that something was wrong. She was sure that the figure in the flames was definitely not Bryce. But the figure looked familiar. Cindy seemed to think of something and got excited all of a sudden. Not only Cindy, but also Marcia found something different. Looking at the figure in the fire, a long-lost smile appeared on her face. He's back. Finally, the fire completely dissipated, revealing the figure inside. When they saw clearly what was going on inside, the others couldn't help but froze. They saw another young man standing in front of Bryce. With a faint smile, the young man looked relaxed. He gently raised his hand to support a small defensive light curtain, keeping all the harm out of the light curtain. It was Locke, of course. Is this Locke Capet? The students in Class 1 were shocked. Joanna looked at Locke with surprise. He was really so powerful. But, isn't he a mage? Why does he have a sword? A student asked curiously as he noticed the sword in the stone on Locke's waist. Bang! His head was hit hard by another classmate. Is it the time to care about this? Oh, yes. Regardless of bickering with this classmate, he hurriedly looked in the direction of Locke and Bryce. Although you are a little impulsive, it's not bad on the whole. Turning to look at Bryce, Locke said with a smile. Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, Bryce was so excited that he was about to cry. His voice was a little choked. Boss, you're finally here. Locke nodded slightly, turned around and looked at the white-tailed hawk in the distance. With a faint smile, she said, leave the rest to me. As he spoke, he removed the defensive light curtain and let Bryce go back first. Bryce understood and ran slowly towards the crowd. Although he didn't know the actual strength of Locke, he knew that Locke was definitely not someone who would do something stupid. Judith, who was fighting hard in the distance, also saw Locke. She finally felt a little relieved. Bryce. Cindy bumped into Bryce's arms and almost knocked Bryce to the ground. Are you okay? Holding Bryce's face in her hands, Cindy asked with concern. I'm fine. Crossing his arms around Cindy's waist, Bryce shook his head and said. At the same time, he looked in the direction of Joanna and nodded, indicating that he was fine. Joanna wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and smiled. Bryce also knew that it was not the right time to be intimate, so he held Cindy's hand and watched the fight. Then he looked at Locke, who was facing the huge hawk in the sky. He raised his palm and crooked his middle finger. Hiss. Seeing this, everyone gasped. From Locke, they felt not only provocation, but also disdain and contempt. Wasn't Locke Capet a level 3 mage? How dare he challenge a level 4 magical beast? In the sky, the white-tailed hawk was completely infuriated when it saw this tiny man dared to provoke him. Ouch! With a cry, the purple energy ball in its mouth was instantly condensed. The energy ball hit Locke directly. The others' hearts rose to their throats as they nervously looked at the falling energy ball. However, facing the falling energy ball, Locke remained calm. Bang! Under the nervous gaze of the crowd, Locke raised his left hand, slowly stretched out his index finger and clicked on the energy ball that was rushing over. At this moment, the energy ball seemed to be fixed. It stopped directly and then slowly dispersed. The white-tailed hawk in the sky was also slightly stunned. It seemed that it didn't expect that Locke could easily resist its attack. It roared. So powerful. Everyone was shocked when they saw that Locke easily solved the attack of the level 4 magical beast. You'd better come down. Looking at the giant hawk in the sky, Locke's eyes narrowed slightly. The small universe was aroused, and strong magic energy instantly burst out from his body. This is a level 4 mage. On the other side, Judith happened to dodge the attack of the tiger-shaped magical beast. After a while, Judith sensed the magic aura from Locke's body and said in a dull tone. The other students widened their eyes in shock. Wasn't Locke Cape a level 3 mage? Why did he suddenly become a powerful level 4 mage? In addition to the shock, everyone was in great happiness. Now, with the addition of a level 4 mage, the original desperate situation was suddenly gone. Some people present were so excited that they began to sob. In the field, the magic power in Locke's hands had been condensed, and 6 swords with blazing flames were circling in front of him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. He gently pushed the sword, making a sound of breaking the air, and stabbed towards the white-tailed hawk with fire. The white-tailed hawk let out a cry and launched a sound wave to attack him, trying to shatter the long sword, but it was useless. The long sword was not affected at all, and it didn't even slow down a little, stabbing straight in the direction of the white-tailed hawk. Sensing the dangerous aura contained in the sword, the white-tailed hawk didn't dare to take it head-on. It flapped its wings and dodged aside. The white-tailed hawk moved as fast as lightning and dodged aside in an instant. The 6 flaming swords missed the target. Turning its head to look at Locke, the white-tailed hawk sneered at Locke for not being able to attack it. Seeing that Locke's attack failed, everyone felt a sense of loss. While everyone was sighing, a mysterious smile appeared on Locke's face. The flame sword, which had been flying straight out, made a sharp turn and flew towards the white-tailed hawk. Don't waste time. Locke shook his head and said lightly. Seeing the sudden turn of the flame sword, everyone exclaimed. Generally speaking, unless they became the level 6 mages and there is a qualitative improvement in the spirit power, mages would be difficult to control the trajectory after the magic skill was released. Locke was only a level 4 mage now, but he could do what could only be done by a level 6 mage. The white-tailed hawk's pupils suddenly dilated, and its eyes were filled with fear, and its whole body was trembling violently. At this moment, it felt a strong threat, a sense of death. Urged by this horrible feeling, it did not dare to hesitate at all. It used all its strength to escape to a safe place aside. However, it was too late. The flame sword had already arrived in front of it. Bang! The 6 swords hit the white-tailed hawk. The sky once again lit up with dazzling flames. This time, a huge body fell vertically from the flames. Bang! The dead body of the white-tailed hawk left a huge hole on the ground. It was not until the dead body of the white-tailed hawk heavily smashed to the ground that the others finally came to their senses and then burst into cheers. After defeating the white-tailed hawk, Locke didn't waste any time and directly ran towards the tiger-shaped magical beast and the level 3 magical beast where Judith was fighting. On the way, he saw a lot of powerful magical beasts. If these magical beasts were all attracted here, it would be really dangerous. Judith had been watching the fight between Locke and Locke. She was shocked to see that the level 4 magical beast was defeated so easily by Locke. At this moment, he was almost attacked by the level 3 magical beast. In a hurry, she jumped high, spun a few times, and quickly stabilized her body. The tiger-shaped magical beast seized the opportunity and rushed towards her with its bloody mouth wide open. In a moment of desperation, she could only condense a magic shield in front of herself. Bang! The claw of the tiger-shaped magical beast hit the defensive fire shield in front of Judith. Fire elements in Judith's body were madly injected into the magic shield, and the tiger-shaped magical beast did not retreat and continued to hit the magic shield. Bang! Just when Judith couldn't resist it, she felt that something unknown was helping her and a muffled sound came at the same time. Then the incomparably powerful tiger-shaped magical beast flew out like a parabolic trajectory. As for the level 3 magical beast, it was also confused when it saw its boss was thrown out. At the same time, a beam of light flew over. Before it came to its senses, it heard a crack and then lost consciousness. Bryce and the others took a deep breath, their eyes full of amazement. Looking at the level 3 magical beast, which had been nailed to the ground by sword in the stone and lost its vitality in an instant, the student who was curious about the reason why Locke had a sword muttered, "I seem to know the use of this sword." The tiger-shaped magical beast also struggled to stand up from the ground. It shook its head and stared angrily at the person who had knocked him away. Ouch! It roared and an energy column shot out from its mouth. Locke and Judith jumped up and avoided the energy column. Bang! The rocks behind them were directly smashed into pieces by the powerful energy column. Locke waved his hand gently. The sword in the stone, which was originally inserted in the level 3 magical beast, trembled slightly and flew back to his hand. Locke raised his left hand and quickly condensed the magic in front of his body, throwing it towards the tiger-shaped magical beast. At the same time, he held sword in the stone in both hands and stabbed at the vital parts of the tiger-shaped magical beast. A light ball protruded from the tiger-shaped magical beast and blocked the magic of Locke. It roared and rushed towards Locke. Bang! Bang! Sizz! Sword in the stone was inserted into the neck of the tiger-shaped magical beast. The powerful tiger-shaped magical beast suddenly collapsed to the ground and died. Locke Caput. Seeing the tiger-shaped magical beast was killed in this way, the students around cheered. However, after killing the level 4 magical beast, Locke didn't relax at all. Instead, he looked more serious. He slowly looked towards a jungle. During this period of time, he had a feeling of being monitored. Now he was sure that they were under surveillance, because he had just captured something mysterious. After returning the tiger-shaped magical beast to the system zone, Locke turned to Judith and said, "We need to leave here as soon as possible." Judith's eyes were still full of shock. Hearing Locke's words, she came to her senses and nodded. They all rushed to the periphery. Not long after Locke and the others left, 2 masked men in black robes appeared in the direction he had seen before. "We were found just now." An old voice came from under the mask. "If you hadn't stopped me, they would have been dead now." Another man in a black robe said with dissatisfaction. You idiot, if you expose our whereabouts and delay our master's plan, you will die. The old man scolded. The word, master, was obviously very powerful. The other man in a black robe fell silent and surprisingly did not refute. With a cold snort, the old man ignored him and looked in the direction in which Locke and the others left. After leaving the place where they had fought before, Locke didn't rush forward. Instead, he found a place to rest. He could tell that everyone had never been mentally and physically tired after the long journey. After witnessing how powerful Locke was, the students didn't feel as nervous as they had been a few days ago. They had a good night's rest. The next day, everyone continued their journey. With the help of Locke, their moving speed increased by several times. In a jungle outside, bang! Jerry pushed back a level 4 magical beast with magic and shouted at Lloyd behind him, "Lloyd, I'll stop them. You take your students away first." Lloyd could also refuse. He nodded and led the students in another direction. However, how could the 3 magical beasts make their wish come true? A level 4 magical beast roared and attacked Jerry, dragging him. The other 2 level 3 magical beasts surrounded Lloyd and the others. Seeing this, Lloyd's face turned pale, and so did the students. While resisting the level 4 magical beast, Jerry walked towards the level 3 magical beasts, trying to stop the level 3 magical beasts from approaching Lloyd and the others. Boom! Under Jerry's attack, the level 4 magical beast and the other level 3 magical beast were stopped, but the other level 3 magical beast successfully came to Lloyd and the others. Lloyd tried to stop the magical beast with the magic element in front of him. On the other side, the level 4 magical beast roared, jumped up and rushed to Jerry. The magic power in Jerry's hand was ready and was about to be released. At the same time, a beam of light flew over from afar. Sizz. When the magical beast flew into the air, it was nailed to the ground by the white light and instantly lost its breath. The white light was, of course, Locke's sword in the stone. In order to save time, Locke didn't hold back. He used his full strength as soon as he made a move. The level 4 magical beast was also caught off guard by Locke's sword, so it was killed on the spot. The lively level 4 magical beast was dead. Jerry widened his eyes and looked at this incredible scene. The other 2 level 3 magical beasts also stood in the distance, dumbfounded. For a moment, they forgot to attack the crowd. They looked at the lifeless level 4 magical beast with confusion in their eyes, as if they didn't understand what had happened. At the same time, Locke slowly walked out of the jungle. He looked calm and strolled leisurely. The sword in the stone flew back to his hand. At the same time, 2 magic flew out of the forest and hit the level 3 magical beast, which surrounded Lloyd and the others. Bang! The 2 level 3 magical beasts were blasted away by the 2 magic. While the magical beasts were struggling, another 2 magic flew out and hit them. Only then did they die. This Novelbent calm for new updates. Jerry and Lloyd were stunned for a moment, and the others were also stunned. 1 level 4 magical beast and 2 level 3 magical beasts were dead. If everything in front of them was not too real, they would doubt if they were dreaming. Besides, was Locke a level 3 mage? How could he be so powerful? They were not stupid. When the sword in the stone flew back to Locke's hand, they knew that the level 4 magical beast was killed by Locke. While they were in shock, they saw students in Class 1 and Class 4 come out of the forest in 2s and 3s. Judith was in the front, and at this time, her body was still surrounded by fire elements. It was obvious that she had just released the 2 magic. Lloyd and Jerry looked at each other and found that the other's eyes were full of shock. After the crisis was resolved, the students of several classes gathered together. "Hi, Hill. Oh, Sarah, it's so nice to see you." Friends greeted each other, their faces full of surprise. Of course, there was one exception, Flynn Basil, staring angrily at Bryce who was joking with Camp. Although he only contacted them for a while, he found that the students in Class 4 had a very good relationship with those in Class 1. Judith also greeted Jerry and Lloyd. After greeting Judith, Jerry and Lloyd looked at Locke. They were surprised and curious. Facing the curiosity of the 2 people, Locke did not explain. At this time, he also appeared a little serious. He slowly said to Judith and Jerry, "Let's go. Leave here first. There is a level 5 magical beast over there." Hearing Locke's words, Judith and the other 2 took a deep breath. Although they didn't know why Locke knew that a level 5 magical beast had come, they didn't dare to doubt it at all. A level 5 magical beast was not so easy to be defeated. One level 5 magical beast could easily crush 10 level 4 magical beasts. They had no chance to fight back in front of the level 5 magical beast. Without hesitation, the three immediately organized their students to walk towards the periphery of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. There would probably be a big war coming. Locke stood on the trunk of a huge tree and looked into the depth of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. In that direction, the magical beast was gathering one by one, led by a level 5 magical beast. However, his current cultivation base was at the early stage of the 7th sense of the small universe, and he was almost at the middle stage of the breakthrough to the 7th senses. If it weren't for the special time, he would like to practice with the level 5 magical beast to see how powerful he was. He had a hunch that the breakthrough to the middle stage of the 7th sense of the small universe would be able to compete with the ordinary level 5 magical beast. Locke didn't know it until he talked with Jerry and the others. Just like Judith, Jerry and the others met level 3 magical beasts not long after the training began. They found that something was wrong, so they did not hesitate and immediately planned to retreat to meet Locke and the others. However, they did not expect to encounter the siege of other magical beasts on the way. They had planned to use the teleportation rune, but the teleportation rune they took out instantly cracked and could no longer be used. They had no choice but to retreat on foot. In the process of dodging magical beasts, their route gradually deviated and finally arrived here. After the two teams gathered, they rushed to the edge of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts without a stop. Along the way, they met a lot of level 3 magical beasts, which were defeated easily. They clearly found that there were more and more magical beasts around them. Obviously, the surge of beasts was about to erupt. In order to ensure the safety of the students, Jerry suggested that everyone choose a new route, directly bypassing the Dika's city and withdrawing from the area of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. But unfortunately, they found that except for the way to the Dika's city, the other ways were all magical beasts. Finally, they came to the conclusion that they were surrounded by magical beasts because the magical beasts had surged. Now their only way was to go to the Dika's city. They had no choice but to continue to head for the Dika's city. In the afternoon of the next day, they finally saw the familiar city. When they saw Dika's city, they were secretly relieved, and many students even shed tears. For many people, this training was a narrow escape from death. Even Judith, Jerry and Lloyd sighed with emotion. They had organized several pieces of training, but this time it was particularly dangerous. If it weren't for Locke, they would have fallen into the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. But as they got closer, they found that there was something wrong with the Dika's city. There was no one outside the city gate, and the city wall was also full of guards, which looked very depressed. The guard opened the gate when he saw that they were from the Shalar Magic Academy. It was Peggy Ralph, the Castellan of Dika's city, who greeted them. Locke noticed that although Peggy was smiling, there was obvious sadness and fatigue on his face. Are there magical beasts in Dika's city? Judith asked, looking at the bloodstains on the city wall. On the second day after you left, we encountered a surge of beasts. With a serious look on his face, Peggy sighed and continued, fortunately, this wave of beasts is not very strong. There are only dozens of them, and one of them is the level 4 magical beast. It was quickly repelled by us. Although the last wave of beasts was repelled by us, based on the situation of the whole Nariel Mountains of magical beasts, I'm afraid that there will be a large-scale surge of beasts, and the situation is not optimistic. Hearing Peggy's words, Judith and the other three nodded seriously. They had already been mentally prepared for the surge of beasts, so they were not very surprised. I have informed the city of the news. I believe that it won't be long before the city will send people to support us. Hearing this, Judith and the others looked better. Except for Locke, whose face remained unchanged all the time. He looked into the distance. In the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts, it was not as sunny as it used to be. The gray clouds were very low, and lightning flashed in the clouds. They turned into a large flood dragon, majestic, but at the same time revealing a murderous intent from the sky. In that direction, a large number of magical beasts were gathering. Howl. At the same time, roars came from the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts in the distance. Hearing the roar, everyone's expression changed. Without hesitation, they closed the city gate and walked into the city. After entering the city, Locke found that there were 1/3 fewer people in the city than before, but there were still many vendors on the street. In this city, in addition to the people who left, there should be 200,000 people now. Looking at the peddlers in the distance, Costello and Peggy explained to Locke and the others. Some of them were blocked in the city before they could retreat. Some of them had already regarded Dika's city as their own home and were unwilling to leave. At the same time, there was a glimmer of hope in their hearts that the surge of beasts would soon pass. Under the arrangement of Costello and Peggy, everyone rested in the Dika's city. In the evening, Locke took a comfortable bath and was about to continue with the practice of the small universe. At this time, he found that Judith was standing outside the door. Locke put on his clothes and opened the door. Looking at Locke, Judith's eyes softened. She said softly, "Peggy invited us to a meeting to discuss how to deal with the surge of beasts." Okay. Locke nodded. He wouldn't have attended such a boring meeting if it was usual. Although he was confident that he could protect himself, he still had students under his command. Under the huge surge of beasts, he could not guarantee the safety of every student. Led by a guard, the two walked towards the meeting hall. On their way to the meeting hall, Locke and Judith happened to meet Jerry and Lloyd. Nate W. Novel chapters are published on Note Vel. Bint Company per meter. "Hi, Locke." Lloyd waved his hand and greeted. Jerry also smiled at Locke and greeted Locke. Since Jerry knew the strength of Locke, he had already stopped looking down upon Locke. Locke nodded with a smile and greeted the two. They followed the guard and walked towards the meeting hall. "I tried to use the teleportation rune in the city just now," Judith suddenly said. "I think I still know the reason why the Castellan asked us to go there." Jerry and Lloyd nodded. The reason why the Castellan came to them at this time was to discuss how to resist magical beasts. Judging from the current situation, there is a surge of beasts in the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. It's very dangerous to use the transmission rune rashly. Lloyd said slowly after a long silence. "I suggest that we should work together to defend the city." Jerry paused, knowing that the others knew what he meant, and then continued, "Let's use the transmission rune." "I agree." Judith nodded. Lloyd nodded in agreement. The three looked at Locke at the same time. Locke was slightly stunned and said with a smile, "Don't look at me. I have no objection." Looking at Locke's casual look, the three were speechless. Led by the guard, the four arrived at the meeting hall soon. The meeting hall was not very large, and it should be about 300 square meters. The layout was high on all sides and low in the middle, and rows of chairs were bowed to the middle, which was very similar to the layout of the meeting room of the British Parliament that Locke had seen in his previous life. At this time, the meeting hall was already full of people. Because the seats were not enough, there were still more than a dozen people standing. And in the middle of the seats in the front row, there were 4 more seats left alone. The meeting hall was filled with noise and discussion, and many people even flushed with arguments. When Locke and the others stepped into the meeting hall, it was quiet for a moment. All eyes were instantly focused on Locke and the other 3. A maid came up and led the 4 people to the center of the meeting hall. Finally, they sat down in the front empty seat. Locke noticed that the man sitting in the first row opposite to him was Raoul, the leader of the Magic Guild. Except for the 4, the old man with a white beard was sitting in the first row. With divine consciousness, Locke soon knew everyone's cultivation base. There were actually 6 level 4 mages in the first row. Locke couldn't help but sigh. No wonder there were so many level 4 practitioners in the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. In terms of the practitioner's strength, the scale of Dika's city must have reached that of a big city of Naden County. Raoul nodded to Locke with a smile, and Locke nodded to him with a smile as well. "I don't think I need to introduce these 4 people to you." Seeing Locke and the others sitting down, Costello and Peggy said, "Since everyone is here, let's start the meeting." Glancing at the people in the meeting hall, he became serious and said, "Today, the Dika's city we live in is facing the threat of the magical beast. We gathered here for only one purpose: to protect it." After saying that, he stopped and waited for others to express their opinions. "On behalf of the Magic Guild, I declare that I will try my best to assist the guards against magical beasts." Seeing that the meeting hall became quiet, Raoul announced slowly, "The Mercenary Guild will try its best to assist the guards in the prevention of magical beast. The Gith mercenary team will never flinch, too." All the forces expressed their opinions. All their properties were in the city. If they left the city, they would have nothing. At this time, they would not shrink back. In the end, all eyes were once again focused on Locke and the other three. The Shalar Magic Academy was the most powerful in Naden County. Judith and other tutors were undoubtedly powerful. And the students who could enter the Shalar Magic Academy were all first-class geniuses. Therefore, the Shalar Magic Academy was definitely a powerful force that could not be ignored. The Shalar Magic Academy will also organize students to participate in the precaution work. Judith said in a low voice. She also understood that at this time, only when all the forces were united could they resist the following surge of beasts. There was basically no chance of winning if they fought alone. But if anything unexpected happens, we won't put students in danger. Glancing around the meeting hall, Judith added. The other forces felt a little relieved when they heard that the Sila Magic Academy would also participate in the defense. Everyone present knew what Judith meant. However, they had no objection. Not to mention the Shalar Magic Academy, even if they were in a desperate situation, they might use teleportation site. After discussion, all the forces would send their own people to the station on the city wall to help the guards resist magical beasts. At the same time, during the resistance to the surge of beasts, each force would restrain their own subordinates to prevent anyone from taking the opportunity to make trouble. The next step was to discuss the defensive positions of all the forces. Although Dika's city was not as big as that of other big cities, it was also not small, with a total area of more than 60 square kilometers. An all-round defense would be a huge and complicated project. It was not until 2 hours later that the meeting was over. Raoul walked towards Locke, patted Locke on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Would you like to have a drink with me?" Locke nodded with a smile. After greeting Judith and the others, he left the meeting hall with Raoul. Led by Raoul, Locke came to a remote alley. The two of them pushed open the broken wooden door and walked in. To Locke's surprise, there were two totally different worlds outside the door and inside the door. Outside the door was desolate, and the lights inside the door were flickering noisy. The atmosphere of the bar was unusually good, without any depression. The smiling faces were in sharp contrast to the depression outside the city. After taking Locke to sit down at the bar counter, Raoul looked at the bartender and said, as usual. The bartender was a middle-aged man with a square face, big nose and clean-shaven face. Locke sensed a dark magic aura from the middle-aged man with a square face, so he was sure that the man in front of him should be a dark mage with a high cultivation base. Upon hearing Raoul's words, the man with a square face was expressionless. As if he hadn't heard what he said, he concentrated on mixing the wine in his hand. Raoul wasn't in a hurry. He pointed at Locke and said, "Give him another cup of Bloody Mary." The middle-aged man with a square face was still unresponsive and concentrated on mixing the wine in his hand. Looking at the rapturous crowd, Raoul put on a cozy smile, leaned back in his chair and said, "How's it going? Is it a good place?" Locke nodded in agreement and said in surprise, "I didn't expect you to come to such a bar." Raoul chuckled and said, "I have hobbies quite similar to the young." At this time, a girl came up and talked to Raoul. Seeing the two talking happily, Locke finally confirmed that Raoul was indeed a regular visitor. He also looked around the people in the bar. Some of them were men in military uniform, some had just changed shifts from the city wall, some women with heavy makeup, and some were mages in a mage robe. Some young men who were about the same age as Locke looked around curiously. At this moment, everyone had forgotten the upcoming crisis. Fortunately, there was no ban on underage drinking here. Otherwise, he and these young men would be driven out. But on second thought, he found that there was no need for such a law. Perhaps because of the existence of extraordinary power, alcohol was insignificant in front of the extraordinary power. In less than 10 minutes, the middle-aged man with a cold face handed over 2 glasses of wine. A cold face all his life. Looking at the middle-aged man with a cold face, Raoul cursed in his heart, but he still pushed the glass to Locke and said, "Have a try. This is the best cocktail of this bar." Locke took a sip. It tasted sweet and salty. Raoul also took a sip of the wine. Looking at Raoul, Locke asked curiously, "Where is Mr. Hajia?" "He withdrew with some people of Mage Guild first." Raoul replied. Before the surge of beasts broke out, the Magic Guild had already transferred the talented young mages out. In fact, in addition to the Magic Guild, other forces had also transferred their core figures and descendants. Although they were reluctant to part with the industries in Dika's city, they were also afraid that something unexpected would happen and destroy their whole family or the mercenary group. Locke, you shouldn't have come here this time, Raoul said after taking a sip of wine. Before Locke came to his senses, Raoul continued, I have lived in Dika's city for 40 years and experienced 4 big beast attacks. During these 2 beast attacks, I saw the city gate was broken by magical beasts, but I have never seen such a strange beast attack as this time. Locke listened quietly. Maybe, this time, the Dika's city will be destroyed, Raoul said in a sad tone. After a moment's silence, he stared straight at Locke and said in a low voice, Listen, Locke. I know you have hidden your real strength, but I'm afraid you can't resist the crisis in Dika's city this time. I mean, if you can leave, you'd better leave as soon as possible. Although he had only seen Locke fight once, which was in the battle of the Tiger mercenary team, with years of experience, he knew that he could feel that Locke was definitely not simple. Raoul's words warmed Locke's heart. He knew that Raoul was persuading him to leave. Taking a deep breath, Locke raised his glass and said, Thank you. Raoul was a little surprised and looked at Locke. Seeing that Locke looked calm, he shook his head and smiled. Now that he had said that, he believed that Locke would have his own choice. The two began to drink in the bar. There were naturally a lot of young girls coming to accost Locke who had a good temperament. Locke couldn't stand the harassment. He quickly drank up the wine in his glass and left. After saying goodbye to Raoul, he went back to his residence. He ignored Raoul's suggestion. With his strength, it was absolutely not difficult for him to fight alone, but the problem was that Bryce and the others would be in danger. He couldn't leave his students behind. Although they could use the teleportation rune to leave the city now, the teleportation rune could just work for a short time. With the outbreak of the surge of beasts, the surroundings were all magical beasts. It might not be safer to use the teleportation rune rashly than to stay in the city. Moreover, given the current situation, it was hard to say who would be the final winner. The Dika's city may not be destroyed. Read latest novels at new.com. Or practice. As long as he entered the middle stage of the 7th sense, he would use enough strength to deal with level 5 magical beasts. By that time, even if it was level 6 magical beasts, he might be able to fight. Thinking of this, Locke entered the practice mode. After a night's rest, Bryce and the others felt much better. It was the best day they had rested for so many days. Under Judith's arrangement, the students gathered in the square. I'm very happy. Everyone had a good rest last night. After glancing at everyone's face, Judith said slowly, Now, there is a piece of unfortunate news to tell everyone. This morning, the guards saw magical beasts outside the city. The students were confused. Wasn't it normal to see magical beasts? Why did Judith look so serious? Not one magical beast, but thousands of magical beasts. Judith's voice rang in everyone's ears again. Bang! Hearing this, the students were in an uproar. The expression on their face changed from confusion to shock, and then from shock to fear. Thousands of magical beasts, what a horrible thing. Yes, there is a surge of beasts. We are surrounded by magical beasts. Judith's voice interrupted the students' discussion. There are 2 choices for us now. First, hide in your room and be a coward. When magical beasts break through the city, I will take you away from the city like stray dogs. Second, go to the city wall over there and destroy magical beasts with the magic in your hands. Tell them that the human world is sacred and inviolable, and behind you, there are 200,000 people's lives. After Judith finished her words, the crowd quieted down. Never retreat. A few seconds later, someone shouted. The students raised their fists and shouted with red faces. Basil, young master, a tall and thin student whispered to Flynn. Basil. You idiots. Looking at the excited students, Flynn cursed. Shouldn't we just use the transmission rune to leave now? Defending the city was the business of Dika's city. Why should they go up and fight desperately? With a gloomy face, Flynn said to the 2 people beside him, At that time, let's stand back and let these idiots rush forward by themselves. Led by Judith, the students walked towards the east wall. 503. On the city wall, there was a 5-meter-long catapult about 50 meters away. Around the catapult, the soldiers were wrapping an oil blanket around the stones. On the edge of the city wall, there was a 4 or 5 meter long crossbow, on which there were nearly 3 meter long arrows. As soon as they arrived at the edge of the city wall, they heard the terrifying roar of magical beasts. After climbing the stone staircase, the students also came to the city wall. When they saw the scene downstairs, all the students, including Bryce, felt extremely frightened. Beneath the city walls were thousands of magical beasts. Those at the front were some beasts that were not even level 1 magical beasts, and the strength of magical beasts behind gradually increased. At the end of the magical beasts, more than 10 level 4 magical beasts were seen. Looking down at magical beasts, everyone held their breath and felt a little scared. After greeting with Castell and Peggy, Judith, Jerry and Lloyd all looked serious. The power of the surge of beasts was beyond their expectations. Locke wasn't surprised by the number of the magical beast. He had gone deep into the Nariel mountains of magical beasts, and he had seen a lot of level 5 magical beasts, and even a lot of level 6 magical beasts like Beetle. Therefore, although there were a lot of magical beasts in front of him, it was not enough to surprise him. Compared with magical beasts, Locke was more impressed by the construction of the city wall. In and out of the Deca's city several times, although he had already had a rough estimate of the thickness of the city wall, he was still faintly shocked when he stood at the head of the city wall and watched the huge city wall winding away. Although it was very similar to the Middle Ages in Europe, it was still not the Middle Ages in Europe. Such a big project would definitely be unimaginable if it was placed in the Middle Ages in his previous life. Even in modern society with more advanced technology, it would still be a vast project to surround a city of more than 60 square kilometers. Fortunately, there was extraordinary power in the world. Magical beasts outside the city wall roared crazily, and the humans inside the city wall were also on full alert. Ouch! Nate W. novel chapters are published on No. Bint Company per meter. Outside the city wall, a huge snake nearly 20 meters long roared. This long howl was like an attack order. All the magical beasts began to roar in agreement, and then they rushed towards the city wall. Magical beasts began to attack. Looking at magical beasts in the distance, the students' hearts jolted, and their breathing gradually quickened. Their palms were soaked with cold sweat. Boom, boom, boom. The running sound of the magical beasts was like sharp blades, stimulating everyone's heart. Since they were far away and hadn't reached the attacking range of mages, the mages on the city wall didn't take action. Ready. On the city wall, seeing that magical beasts had reached the attacking range, the captain of the catapult waved a blue chess piece and shouted. Hearing the order, the guards quickly lifted the giant stones stained with fire to the catapult and lit them. Swoosh. The cannonball on catapult immediately lit up. Seeing that everything was ready, the captain waved the yellow chess, let it go. With a bang, catapult projected fireball. Huge balls with flames slid into the sky one after another, like falling meteors. They drew a beautiful arc in the sky and smashed towards magical beasts. Boom, boom, boom. A magical beast was smashed into pieces by fireballs. The huge fireballs continued to fly, smashing heavily onto the ground, creating huge holes. Bang! The stone fragments exploded by fireballs scattered in all directions. One of the hand-sized stone pieces flew towards a running one-horned rhinoceros. Its head exploded like a watermelon. A fireball thrown out by the catapult could basically kill 4 or 5 magical beasts. Ready. Let's go. The huge fireballs whizzed towards the magical beasts, and the whole sky was reflected in orange by the color of fireballs. Looking at the fireballs in the sky, Bryce and the others were stunned by this magnificent scene with their mouths slightly open. Bang, bang, bang. Fireballs exploded on the ground one by one, and magical beasts were directly smashed into pieces. However, even so, the magical beasts didn't retreat at all. They passed the big hole made by fireballs and kept on going. Boom. Under the attack of the throwing machine, there were only 2/3 of the magical beasts who were rushing over. Soon, magical beasts were less than 100 meters away from the city wall. Move. Looking at the approaching magical beasts, Castell and Peggy's eyes narrowed slightly and shouted. As he spoke, he condensed the magic of level 4 in his hand and attacked the first magical beast. Bang! It was just an ordinary beast, directly exploded into pieces by this magic. The well-prepared mage also threw out his own magic one after another. The magic of various colors interwove in the sky, making the whole world colorful. Boom! There was another explosion outside the city wall. These magical beasts, low-level magic beasts, couldn't block the magic. Before they reached the foot of the city wall, they were exploded by the magic. Practitioners, who were engaged in close combat between warriors and swordsmen, were also moving to deal with the impact of magical beasts. Bryce and the others did not make a move. Because they did not have any experience in defense, they were arranged to support the team. As for Locke, Judith and the others, they didn't take any action at the moment. Now there were only some low-level magic beasts. If they had to attack these magical beasts, probably the Dika's city would really be in danger. There are magical beasts in the sky. Watch out. An anxious voice sounded in everyone's ears. Bryce and the others raised their heads, frightened and anxious. The sky was also filled with flying magical beasts. Judging from the aura, they were basically level 1 and level 2 magical beasts, at least hundreds of them. And the leader of the group exuded a strong aura of the level 4 magical beast. Archers ready. When Bryce and the others were in a panic, Peggy's calm voice came. Rows upon rows of archers stood up and shot arrows at the sky. The 4 guards walked up to the crossbow and turned it around. The arrows on the crossbow were shot out at a high speed and directly stabbed into the flying level 3 magical beasts. Hiss. Bryce and the others took a deep breath and felt the power of the crossbow. If it was a frontal attack, even level 3 mages would be doomed. Although there were archers attacking, many flying magical beasts still rushed to the city wall. The well-prepared warriors and swordsmen rushed towards the flying magical beasts on the city wall. Peggy condensed the magic in his hands, flying towards the level 4 magical beast in the sky. Seeing that magical beasts had already landed on the city wall, Bryce and the others were ready to take action. Boom! Red balls flew out of the hands of Bryce and the others one by one and hit level 1 magical beasts in the distance. Level -1 magical beasts were directly thrown out. They are so powerful. A boy in class 2 exclaimed when he felt the strong magical fluctuation. Clenching his fists, Flynn looked at Bryce with his eyes full of jealousy. Why did a loser in the past become so strong? Those who had quit class 4 felt deeply regretful again. No, after returning to the academy, they must find a way to transfer back to class 4. Castell and Peggy was also slightly shocked. What an exquisite fireball spell. It was hard to imagine that a fireball spell could release such a powerful force. After a moment of surprise, he drew back his attention and focused on dealing with level 4 magical beasts in front of him. Of course, there were also many flying magical beasts that directly bypassed the city wall and entered Dika's city. Fortunately, in the meeting hall, everyone had considered this problem and set up a certain defensive power in the city, so as soon as flying magical beasts fell to the ground, they would be attacked violently. The battle between humans and magical beasts continued. In just half an hour, the broken arms and legs of magical beasts were everywhere outside the city wall. The air was filled with the smell of blood. Bryce and the others gradually adapted to the bloody scene in front of them. Magic flew out of their hands and hit the magical beasts. A level 1 magical beast flew in front of a girl. It was a bat-shaped magical beast, black all over, and the sharp tusks in its mouth were daunting. The girl's face turned pale when she saw the sudden appearance of this magical beast. She even forgot to resist at once. The bat-shaped magical beast let out a scream and almost bit the girl's neck. Bang! However, at this time, the magical beast only felt a sharp pain. It looked down and saw a sharp blade inserted in its chest. The bat-shaped magical beast fell to the ground with a plop. With a gentle smile on his face, Bryce pulled out his long sword and asked in a soft voice, "Miss Chris, are you okay?" As he spoke, Bryce walked towards the girl like a gentleman. At the same time, a voice came through the air. Intuitively and subconsciously after long training, Bryce turned his body and dodged in another direction. Bang! A blue thing flew past Bryce and exploded on a wall. It was an energy ball from a magical beast. After dodging the energy ball, Bryce made a handsome posture with a faint smile on his face and slowly walked towards the girl under the gaze of the girl's worship. However, he did not notice a corpse of a magical beast beneath his feet. Bryce, who was walking, felt that he was stumbled by something and staggered. Normally, he thought it was a trivial thing, but because he dodged the energy ball just now, he had come to the edge of the city wall. And a strong sense of weightlessness came over. Then, his body fell towards the city wall out of control. In a panic, he caught a ballista broken by a magical beast and hung it on the edge of the city wall. Just when he breathed a sigh of relief, he saw a magical beast under him climbing the smooth wall and rushing up. The magical beast kept its mouth wide open as if it was waiting for delicious food to fall into its mouth. Even Bryce, who was above the magical beast, could see the scarlet throat in the magical beast's mouth. Help! With a scream, Bryce's face turned pale in an instant. He held the handle of the ballista tightly and shook his body crazily towards the city wall, trying to get back to the city wall by taking advantage of the inertia. However, how could his speed be comparable to the magical beast? In the blink of an eye, the magical beast was only less than 1 meter away from Bryce. Ouch! At the same time, the magical beast jumped up and bit Bryce, who was hanging in the air. The sharp teeth emitted a cold light, and the thick liquid between the teeth looked a little sparkling. It's doomed. This was the only thought in Bryce's mind at this moment. He swore that if he could survive this time, he would never show off again. Bang! When Bryce was waiting for his death with his eyes closed, he heard a thud and there is a strong burning sensation beneath him. He hurriedly opened his eyes and saw the magical beast with flames falling under the city wall. Soon, it was submerged under the feet of the other magical beasts. On the other side of the city wall, Cindy was holding a fireball in her hand and looking at him with a sneer. "Dear Cindy, I love you so much," Bryce cried. As he spoke, he climbed up the city wall and hugged Cindy. Cindy pushed him away in disgust. He threw the fireball to another level 1 magical beast. Seeing that Cindy ignored him, Bryce felt a little embarrassed. He smiled awkwardly at the previous girl, held the magic in his hand and also rushed to a magical beast who was rushing up the city wall. Half an hour later, the level 4 magical beast that rushed up had also been killed by Castell and Peggy, Jerry and the others. Locke was only responsible for dealing with the tiny magical beasts. The first wave of beasts had passed, and the guards began to clean up the battlefield. The corpses of magical beasts were thrown out of the city wall one by one. Bryce and the others also sat on the city wall to rest. "Do you know how many magical beasts I killed just now? A total of 11. 11 is nothing. I killed 15. Many students even bragged. They found that the strength of these magical beasts seemed to be just like that, not much powerful, so everyone's mood was not as heavy as it was at the beginning." Compared with them, there was no joy on Locke's face. In the jungle in the distance, a group of more powerful magical beasts was gathering, and a more violent attack was about to begin. Just like Locke, Castell and Peggy, Jerry and the others also had serious expressions on their faces. Although they didn't have divine consciousness and couldn't see clearly what had happened in the forest, they still felt a sense of pressure from the forest. "Attention!" The voice of sentries sounded in everyone's ears. Bryce and the others quickly stood up from the ground. The deafening sound of running came from the distance again. With a closer look, they could only see huge magical beasts running crazily. These magical beasts exuded a strong aura, and the aura gathered together, as if making the whole world dark for a time. The students who had been boasting now completely shut up. Looking at magical beasts running crazily in the distance, they swallowed subconsciously, but at this time they found that their throats were completely dry. Boom. Read latest novels at new.com. Catapult played its role again, and the huge fireballs whizzed towards magical beasts. However, compared to the last time, the effect of the catapult was almost reduced by half. The speed and intelligence of these magical beasts increased exponentially. Most of the fireballs thrown out by catapult were dodged by magical beasts, and the power of the explosion of fireballs was not enough to kill one level 3 magical beast. Boom. Boom. One by one, fireballs slid to the magical beasts. Ouch. Just as magical beasts charged, a deafening roar came from the jungle. A level 5 magical beasts. Feeling the pressure from the roar, Castell and Peggy's face changed instantly, and the faces of the 3 tutors of the Shalar Magic Academy, including Judith, also darkened. It seemed that encouraged by the magical beast, the attacks of the magical beasts became fiercer and fiercer. The magical beasts on the ground madly rushed towards the city wall, and the flying magical beasts in the sky were unwilling to fall behind. Help! Bryce and the others hurriedly activated the magic power in their bodies, intending to throw themselves into the battle again. Puff! However, when Bryce and the others were about to take action, they only saw a black thing rolling in front of them. Everyone was stunned and looked subconsciously at the black ball on the ground. Wow! When Marcia saw the black thing clearly, she felt disgusted and vomited directly. The other girls also instantly bent down and began to vomit. Looking at the black ball, the boys' faces turned pale. Their bodies trembled slightly. It was a head. To be exact, it was a head that was half eaten off by magical beasts. The white brains mixed with blood dyed the head red, leaving only one eye empty and lifeless. Puff. Another body of the guard fell in front of Bryce and the others. Bryce and the others stood numbly in place. Their original ambitions had already flown to the sky. Looking at the increasing number of human corpses on the city wall, the students finally understood the cruelty of the war. The war was not good. Corpses could be seen everywhere. Humans' broken limbs were mixed with the corpses of magical beasts. Looking at the corpses on the ground, everyone felt a sense of retreat and their eyes gradually became fearful. A level 2 magical beast dashed towards Bryce and the others. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. They didn't come to their senses until magical beasts had rushed in front of them. Bang! A beam of fire came, and the magical beasts that were going to attack Bryce and the others were directly thrown out by this powerful attack and landed outside the city wall. After dealing with the magical beasts, Locke looked at the stunned Bryce and the others and reminded them in a low voice, "If you don't want to die, just move." In fact, he could understand the reaction of Bryce and the others. Before they arrived at Dika's city, they were the most powerful people in the family. They were protected by the family and were like flowers in the greenhouse. They had never seen such a horrible and bloody scene. After saying that, he condensed the magic of level 2 in his hand and threw it at a level 2 magical beast who was about to land. Bang! Before the level 2 magical beast could land on the city wall, it was burnt to ashes by Locke's magic. During this period of time, Locke handed over all the level 4 magical beasts to Castell and Peggy, Judith and the others. He went around to support them and defeated some small magical beasts, which were responsible for protecting the safety of the students. Fuck. At this time, Bryce finally came back to his senses. He took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and then shouted, "They are just tiny magical beasts, aren't they? I'm not scared." With a roar, Bryce condensed the magic of level 1 and rushed towards a magical beast who was fighting with the guards. Under the joint attack of Bryce and the guards, the level 2 magical beast was soon defeated. After vomiting for a while, although Cindy's and Marcia's faces were still very pale, they finally recovered a little. Seeing that Bryce had already rushed up, they looked at each other and nodded firmly. The two also rushed to the level 2 magical beast that had just fallen. Seeing that even Cindy and Marcia had rushed up, the students in class 4 naturally didn't want to lag behind. They found the magical beasts and rushed up. Perhaps it was because of the influence of Bryce and those who were fighting, the others also came to their senses from the shock. They looked at each other, gritted their teeth and rushed towards magical beasts in the distance. Once again, there was fighting in the city wall. When magical beasts roared, the human roared, the sound of sharp blades colliding with hard objects, and the sound of the magic explosion. The whole world was in chaos. Because of the high wall, coupled with the large crossbow and the large offensive equipment like a catapult, humans still had the upper hand and gradually forced the magical beasts back. At the same time, magical beasts, who were fighting with Bryce, seemed to receive a message. It jumped and distanced itself from him. It stared at him, gritting its teeth, as if it was about to pounce on him the next moment. Bryce bent slightly and took a deep breath. The magic energy in front of him was gathered in case of a sneak attack of magical beasts. However, to his surprise, magical beasts turned around and jumped down from the city wall, quickly rushing into the distance. Although he was surprised, seeing that magical beasts had run away, Bryce breathed a sigh of relief. He looked around and found that all the magical beasts had retreated. However, before he could catch his breath, he found something wrong in an instant. Magical beasts, who had been fleeing, all stopped and looked in the direction of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts in awe. Even level 4 magical beasts, at this time, were crawling, as if welcoming the arrival of a king. A level 5 magical beast. Looking at the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts, Locke's eyes darkened slightly. Boom! In the distance, a storm that had been brewing for a long time finally arrived. Heavy rain fell on Joanna's face and then slid down her cheek. Crack, crack, crack. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the distance, and large raindrops fell from the sky and hit people. Ouch! A deafening tiger roar came. Attention, a level 5 cloud tiger. One of the watchers on the wall reminded him loudly. It was a black tiger with huge wings on both sides. Its huge tusks were like sharp blades, shining with a chilling luster. Looking at the huge tiger-shaped figure in the distance, Castellan Peggy shouted in a deep voice, "The magic crystal cannon, ready go." The city wall began to tremble slightly. Locke's eyes were instantly focused on the vibrating center. Above the city gate, there was a huge column of more than 10 meters wide. After staring at the huge column for a long time, he said in surprise, "Magic crystal cannon." The magic crystal cannon, with the energy of magic crystal as the shell, was a cannonball. It was absolutely a super powerful killer. However, Locke also noticed that there were many repair marks on the body of the magic crystal cannon, which were obviously damaged a lot. Yes, this is a level 5 magic crystal cannon. Castellan Peggy nodded, but he did not look relaxed at all. This magic crystal cannon has been through many wars, and its damage is serious. Perhaps, shooting one is its limit. Castellan Peggy said in a low voice and looked at the cloud tiger in the distance. So we must hit it with one blow. The level 5 magical beast had already rushed towards the city wall. It was in a threatening manner, as if it could break through the defense of the city wall in the next moment. It was still raining heavily, and the rain mixed with the sweat on people's faces fell to the ground. Even though he had received good training, the cannoneer was still sweating facing a level 5 magical beast. He held the trigger tightly with both hands in fear. Hold on. Taking a deep breath, Castellan Peggy suppressed the palpitation and shouted, "Let's wait until it's close." Ouch. In the blink of an eye, the tiger was less than 1,000 meters away from the city wall. Staring at the approaching cloud tiger, Castellan Peggy shouted, "Save your energy." Hearing the order, the cannoneer pressed the switch. The magic crystal cannon trembled slightly, and a dazzling white light burst out from the cannon. The magic crystal stone at the barrel disappeared at a visible speed, turning into magic energy and entering the cannon. The cannoneer quickly looked for the position of the cloud tiger through the circular aiming device on the cannon. The people on the city wall held their breath and nervously looked at the huge and fierce magical beast in the distance. Now is the time. Castellan Peggy's pupils narrowed slightly, and his voice reached everyone's ears with magic, fire. Bang! The barrel shook violently, making a deafening cracking sound. A white beam of light was shot at the cloud tiger in the distance. Boom! As expected, the beam hit the tiger. Ouch! The cloud tiger let out a miserable roar. When the crowd looked again, a big hole with a diameter of 2 meters appeared on the cloud tiger, and the internal organs and blood were shaken out of the hole. Puff! The cloud tiger fell from the sky and hit the ground. Oh yeah, it's dead. The cloud tiger is dead. We defeated the level 5 magical beast. Looking at the dead body of the cloud tiger, the people on the city wall burst into deafening cheers. Swoosh! Castellan Peggy also felt relieved. The power of the magic crystal cannon was indeed extraordinary. He must install several such weapons for Lister in the future. Looking at the magic crystal cannon which was still smoking in the distance, Locke began to make a plan. However, when he looked at the forest in the distance, Locke's eyes darkened slightly. A greater disaster would appear. On the other side of the city, Raoul was also fighting fiercely with a level 4 magical beast. Master Bowen, the level 5 cloud tiger has been eliminated. A young man shouted excitedly. Hearing this, Raoul felt a little relieved. The level 55 magic crystal really deserved the reputation. At the moment when Raoul was lost in thought, the level 4 magical beast took the opportunity and slapped Raoul. Too bad. Raoul's face changed instantly. He wanted to condense a magic shield in front of him, but it was too late. The level 4 magical beast had already rushed in front of him. Just as the claw of the level 4 magical beast was about to slap down. Boom! A long black sword pierced through the air and stabbed into the body of the level 4 magical beast in the blink of an eye. However, the level 4 magical beast's defense was very strong. With only a dozen centimeters stab, it could no longer move forward a little. Then the sword turned into dark elements and disappeared in the air. The level 4 magical beast screamed in pain and glared at the sneak attack, an expressionless, square-faced middle-aged man with a big nose. "Old man, if you don't come here, I'm afraid I'll have to die here." Looking at the middle-aged man, Raoul complained with dissatisfaction. Although they were complaining, everyone could feel the gratitude in them. If Locke were here, he would have recognized him. Wasn't he the bartender in the bar? The middle-aged man with a cold face didn't reply. He quickly condensed the magic of level 4 in his hand and threw it at the injured level 4 magical beast. Raoul didn't fall behind. He condensed another magic in his hand and rushed up with the middle-aged man. In the west of the city, the battle between humans and magical beasts continued. Just like here, a cruel war was also going on in the north and south of the city. Even in Dika's city, explosions could be heard from time to time. This was the battle between the practitioners in the city and the flying magical beasts in the breakthrough defense line. The most intense attack of magical beasts was still in the east of the city, where Locke was. Something is wrong. Why don't the magical beasts want to retreat? Looking at the covetous magical beasts in the distance, Jerry suddenly had a bad feeling. Generally speaking, if the boss of the magical beast died, the magical beasts would be in chaos until a new king appeared. Read latest chapters at note.vel.bin.co per meter only. Boom. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky, and the storm was even stronger. In the face of the pouring rain, no one wanted to dodge. They all looked at the gnarled mountains of magical beasts in the distance. The blurry outline of the magical beast who made this roar could be faintly seen in everyone's eyes, but it was precisely this blurry appearance that shocked everyone. Ouch! In the heavy rain, the magical beast thumped the ground and burst out a deafening roar. Even though they were several kilometers away, everyone on the city wall could feel the vibration of the ground. Evil ape. It was a giant ape more powerful and more than 20 meters tall than the cloud tiger. Looking at this figure, many people instantly became frightened, and the others also showed extreme panic in their eyes. Even Castellan, Jean and Judith and Jerry suddenly changed their expressions. What was more shocking was that after the giant ape roared, it actually rushed towards the crowd. Every step it took, the earth was shaking and the aura was surging. As the evil ape moved, the other magical beasts also rushed towards the city wall. "Sir, the magic crystal cannon can no longer be used," the cannoneer shouted in a trembling voice. Hearing this, everyone's hearts trembled. The magic crystal cannon couldn't be used anymore. How could they resist the evil ape? Bow and crossbow. Castellan Peggy quickly calmed down and said in a slightly flustered voice. Although the guards were scared, they were well-trained soldiers. After hearing the order, they didn't hesitate to control the bow and crossbow, which were aimed at the evil ape. Finally, the distance between the evil ape and the city wall was less than 1,000 meters. Aim at the evil ape. The arrow as thick as an arm shot towards the evil ape. Fireballs were also thrown out by the catapult and smashed towards the evil ape. A black shield was formed around the evil ape. Bang! The arrow was shot in front of the evil ape. However, under everyone's expectant gaze, the arrow made a black iron turned into a pile of iron mud. At this time, fireballs finally came to the evil ape. Boom! 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 The evil ape was instantly surrounded by the sea of fire, and the shock wave produced by the explosion directly overturned magical beasts around the evil ape. Ouch! A huge figure rushed out of the fire. The evil ape emitted a faint black light, blocking everything outside. He is completely unharmed. Looking at the evil ape with strong defense, Castellan Peggy's face suddenly darkened. Ouch! The evil ape roared angrily and rushed towards the city wall again. Damn it! Looking at the powerful evil ape, everyone could not help but feel a sense of powerlessness. In front of the level 5 magical beast, they had no chance to resist at all. The crossbows and fireballs were still attacking magical beasts in the distance. Although these two could not cause too much substantial damage to magical beasts, they still slowed down the speed of magical beasts. I'm afraid we can't protect Dika's city. Castellan Peggy thought sadly. Without any hesitation, Judith said to Lloyd next to him, "Lloyd, assemble the students right now. Let's use the teleportation rune." Lloyd didn't dare to neglect. He rushed to Bryce and the others, ready to organize the students to retreat. Clang! Just as everyone was in despair, they heard a crisp sound. Looking in the direction of the voice, they saw a long sword hanging in front of Locke. The long sword rattled, emitting a powerful force. Hiss! Looking at the sword in the stone, Castellan Peggy and the others took a deep breath. Locke was good at swordsmanship. Looking at the tall evil ape in the distance, Locke's eyes were burning, and a thick fighting spirit was wrapped around his body. You guard the city wall well. If it's in danger, don't wait for me. Did he want to fight the evil ape alone? Hearing Locke's words, Judith immediately understood what he meant. But did he know what he was facing? It was a level 5 magical beast. She admitted that Locke was very powerful and could even beat the average level 4 magical beasts, but now it was a level 5 magical beast. Locke. Judith tried to stop Locke. However, it was too late. Before she could finish her words, she saw Locke jump down from the city wall. Everyone was startled to see Locke jump down like this. Boss. Bryce and the others rushed to the edge of the city wall. When they saw the scene under the city wall, they were stunned. The others widened their eyes in shock as if they were struck by lightning, looking at the incredible scene in front of them. Read latest chapters at note VEL-BIN-CO per meter only. On the ground. Bang. Locke landed on the head of the magical beast. With his powerful strength, he stepped the magical beast on the ground, and at the same time, she shot towards the evil ape. Howl. Seeing that someone had actually come down, the magical beast temporarily gave up on the city wall. They all pounced on Locke, intending to kill Locke first. The sword in the stone beside Locke slid rapidly, leaving countless sword shadows in the air. Bang. Facing the level sword in the stone forged by the god of forging, these magical beasts cannot resist at all. Their bodies were directly penetrated by the sword, and they instantly lost their vitality. At the same time, stepping on magical beasts, Locke quickly moved in the direction of the evil ape. Wherever he passed, magical beast corpses flew in all directions. Sword in the stone surrounded him. Any magical beasts that wanted to approach him were killed by sword in the stone. Except for those who had known that Locke could use powerful swordsmanship, the others were stunned. Was there really someone in the world who could make the magic and swordsmanship practice to be so superb at the same time? To everyone's astonishment, the evil ape was less than 100 meters away from Locke. Puff. A level 4 magical beast was pierced through by Locke's sword. After dealing with the level 4 magical beast, Locke stopped. He raised his head slowly and looked at the evil ape 100 meters away, with the fighting spirit flying in his eyes. 4 level 4 magical beasts rushed towards Locke, intending to tear Locke apart. Ouch! A roar rang out. Hearing the roar, the 4 level 4 magical beasts retreated in fear. After rebuking level 4 magical beasts, the evil ape's eyes once again focused on Locke. It would personally crush this human who dared to provoke it into meat paste. Human. Looking at Locke, the evil ape spoke human language unexpectedly. However, although it could speak, it was obviously not very skilled. I want to tear you up. Locke grabbed sword in the stone, pointed at the evil ape and smiled faintly. It happened that he could use the evil ape to test his strength. On the other side, the evil ape had already rushed towards Locke. Looking at the evil ape rushing towards him, Locke also showed a trace of seriousness on his face. His small universe had just reached the early stage of the 7 senses. Strictly speaking, he was only a level 4 practitioner. Although the small universe was very powerful that he could fight against someone who was above his level, this was the first time he had faced a level 5 magical beast alone. Moreover, the level 5 magical beast was also affected by some mysterious energy, and its strength was stronger than that of the ordinary level 5 magical beasts. The universe in Locke's body began to spin crazily, and a powerful force poured into sword in the stone. The sword in the stone trembled slightly and made a clang. As fast as lightning, he drew a white light in the air and rushed towards the evil ape. In a flash, they rushed in front of each other. Although it was huge, the evil ape's speed was not slow. It slapped sword in the stone away. Howl. At the same time, a black energy column came out of its mouth and shot towards Locke. In the face of the energy column that suddenly shot towards him, Locke's body spun and avoided the attack of the energy column. Boom. Boom. A big hole of more than 20 meters wide appeared in the place where Locke had been. No wonder it's a level 5 magical beast. It's so powerful. Looking at the explosion caused by the energy column, Castell and Peggy, who was defending against magical beasts on the city wall, sighed. The 3 of them, Judith and Lloyd, were also deeply shocked. If it were them, they might have been slapped into meat paste by the evil ape. After dodging the blow of the evil ape, Locke didn't choose to retreat. He held sword in the stone and rushed towards the evil ape again. At the same time, the level 4 fire magic appeared in his hand. The evil ape reacted quickly. It slapped Locke with one hand and blocked Locke's magic with the other. As a level 5 magical beast, it was very confident in its own defense. Level 4 magic could not pose any threat to it at all. However, it was wrong. The power of every magic released by Locke, in which the fire element had been refined by divine power, was not comparable to the ordinary magic of level 4. Its power was even comparable to that of level 5 magic. Bang! The magic of level 4 exploded on the evil ape's body, and it only felt a sharp pain on its skin. It looked down and found that his arm, which had been attacked by Locke, had been burned black by fire elements. It was hurt. Ouch. Damn, humans. The evil ape was irritated. It roared and slapped towards Locke. Locke was well prepared for the evil ape's attack. He leapt back slightly. Bang. The evil ape slapped on the ground, and the rocks on the ground were directly smashed into pieces by it. However, before Locke could land on the ground, he felt a strong wind blowing over and found that the evil ape's other hand had already slapped over. The palm moved so fast that he had no time to change its direction. Without any hesitation, he condensed defensive magic in front of him. Bang! Under the slap of the evil ape, Locke flew out directly. Puff! Locke didn't stop until he broke several ancient trees. Seeing that Locke was hit by the evil ape, the people on the city wall in the distance were shocked and wanted to know how Locke was now. Ouch! The evil ape didn't stop its attack. Instead, it condensed a black energy ball in its mouth and threw it at the place where Locke fell. Boom! Then, several more black energy balls were thrown over. Boom! 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 The place where Locke was exploded, and the strong shock wave directly uprooted the ancient trees around. Was Locke Caput still alive? Feeling the terrifying explosion energy in the distance, the people on the city wall subconsciously swallowed, but only then did they realize that their throats were dry. Sure enough, still no way. Looking at the direction of the explosion, Judith's eyes dimmed. Such an attack, let alone a level 4 mage, it's dangerous for a level 5 mage to be attacked like this. Joanna's and Marcia's faces turned pale in an instant, and Bryce and the others also looked nervous. Half a minute later, the smoke produced by the explosion of the energy balls gradually dissipated. Hearing the blurry sound in the smoke, Judith's body trembled and her voice trembled slightly. He's still alive. In the smoke, Locke struggled to stand up. Fortunately, at the critical moment, he gathered all his great force and formed a shield around his body. Even so, he had suffered a lot. At this time, he only felt the blood in his chest surge. Ahem. Coughing slightly, Locke waved his hand to dust off the surroundings. Still alive. The people on top of the city wall became excited all of a sudden. Under such a terrifying attack, Locke really survived. They began to admire Locke's strength again. If the ordinary level 4 mage had been slapped by the level 5 magical beast, he would have been in danger now. Maybe Locke could really resist the level 5 magical beast. At this moment, a glimmer of hope appeared in their hearts. Tears welled up in Bryce's eyes as he looked at Locke. We knew our boss would be alive. The evil ape was surprised to see that Locke was still alive. Although it was surprised, it would not give up the plan of killing Locke. It roared and spat out several black balls again. You have attacked me for so long. It's my turn. Looking in the direction of the evil ape, Locke took a deep breath and took the initiative to attack again. He jumped nimbly and avoided the attack of the energy balls. At the same time, fire elements moved in front of him, and the sharp blade made of flames slashed towards the evil ape. Knowing how powerful the magic power of Locke was, the evil ape didn't choose to resist it this time. It just spat out an energy ball from its mouth. Bang! The energy ball collided with the sharp flame blade and exploded. The magic power was stopped, and Locke was not surprised. In an instant, another set of fire blades was condensed and thrown towards the evil ape again. Now I finally know why the Dean trusts Locke so much. Looking in the direction in which Locke and the evil ape were fighting, Lloyd swallowed again with incomparable shock in his tone. Judith and Jerry nodded approvingly. Just the fluctuation they had just produced told them that it was the fluctuation caused by the battle between the two powerful men of level 5. They believed it without any doubt. While they were still in shock, the battle between Locke and the evil ape had reached a white-hot stage. Holding the sword in the stone in his hand, Locke stabbed at the heart of the evil ape. The evil ape seemed to have seen through Locke's intention. Boom! A black light column came out of his mouth and shot towards Locke. Seeing this, Locke dodged aside quickly. The evil ape moved its head and the light column also moved, like a beam of light shooting in the direction of Locke. Locke jumped quickly on the ground. Boom! The light column drew many gullies crisscrossing, and wherever it passed, the rocks cracked, and everything was annihilated in the powerful energy. Although the light column was powerful, Locke was faster than it. Read latest chapters at note VEL/bin/CO per meter only. It hadn't even touched Locke during the fight. The evil ape was furious. It was a powerful level 5 magical beast. It had never been humiliated like this. As it roared, the light column in its mouth instantly became half thicker and its speed was much faster. Now was the time. Locke, who was running wildly to avoid the light column, was about to attack when the evil ape's defense was weak. All of a sudden, just as the light column was about to hit him, Locke jumped up quickly and rushed towards the evil ape in the opposite direction with the help of the huge tree in front of him. The evil ape also noticed that Locke was coming towards him. He gave up the attack of the beam of light directly and slapped on Locke's body. Seeing the huge palm coming at him, Locke looked calm and the small universe in his body began to rotate crazily. At the same time, an energy aura that had never appeared in front of him appeared. This is. Judith also felt the energy attribute in front of Locke. She widened her eyes and cried out in disbelief, "Wood magic." As soon as Judith finished her words, she saw a 1-meter thick vine break through the soil which twined around the evil ape in an instant. Bang! Facing this sudden vine, the evil ape roared. The strength on its arm increased a little. The vine did not hold on for long and was directly broken. Although the vine was broken, the evil ape's palm slowed down a little. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Locke turned his body and climbed over the back of the evil ape's hand. The level 4 fire magic was formed in his hand and smashed towards the evil ape's head. Feeling the crisis of the magic, the evil ape stretched out its hands to block the fire magic that hit its head. At this moment, Locke used the force of the evil ape's palm under his feet to attack the evil ape again. In an instant, it reached the heart of the evil ape. Without any hesitation, he stabbed the sword in the stone in his hand towards the evil ape's heart. With the sharpness of sword in the stone, he was sure that the evil ape would definitely die. However, an accident still happened. Just as the sword in the stone in Locke's hand was about to pierce the evil ape's skin, he suddenly felt a chill flash from his back. It could be found under divine consciousness that it was a tiny black needle. He had sensed the aura in the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. Without any hesitation, Locke immediately withdrew sword in the stone, which was stabbed at the evil ape, and kicked the evil ape's chest, dodging sideways with the help of the counterforce. To Locke's surprise, the black needle disappeared after he dodged the attack. After leaving the evil ape, Locke didn't dare to relax at all. The small universe in his body was rotating, and he held sword in the stone in her hand, staring around vigilantly. Locke looked more serious than ever. Now he was very sure that there was a strong man hiding in a corner of the scene. At the same time, his divine consciousness also spread out thoroughly, checking every corner around to find out the person in the dark. While Locke was nervously searching for the person who was hiding in the dark, the people on the city wall were somewhat confused. In the eyes of Judith and the others, Locke could have killed the level 5 magical beast, but he took back his sword and gave up. Castell and Peggy was also confused and asked, "What is Locke doing?" Judith shook her head slowly. She could tell that something was wrong with Locke. She even felt that Locke looked more serious than when she faced the level 5 evil ape. Sweat began to break out on Locke's forehead under the city wall. There was no one. As divine consciousness was working, his face darkened. "I found you." Just as he was about to give up, he suddenly found a faint aura 100 meters away from the left. At this time, the evil ape also reacted. Ouch! It thumped his chest and roared at Locke, rushing towards Locke. Locke glanced at the place 100 meters away without being noticed, and his eyes darkened slightly. In front of him, the fire element was moving, and level 4 magic was condensed in front of him, as if to deal with the evil ape's attack. Just as the level 4 magic was about to release, Locke suddenly turned around and threw the magic in his hand in the direction of the obscure aura. Bang! With the explosion of the magic, Locke instantly felt 2 more obvious energy fluctuations. At this time, the evil ape had already rushed in front of Locke. Locke had no choice but to temporarily dodge the evil ape's attack. He jumped up and hid in the distance. After dodging the attack of the evil ape, he released the previous two auras and rushed towards the Narial mountains of magical beasts at an extremely fast speed. Who are these two people? Looking in the direction in which the two of them left, Locke was confused. However, when he saw the two leave, he was secretly relieved. Judging from the aura of the two, they were at least level 5 practitioners. Judith and the others, who were on top of the city wall, were still in a daze. They were far away from Locke, and the other party had a very strong ability to hide their breath, so they could not sense the breath of the two people at all. They only saw that Locke suddenly threw the magic in his hand into empty space without anything. Then he looked at the empty space with a serious face. Seeing that Locke was still in a daze, the evil ape felt a deep insult. "Human, I'm going to kill you." The evil ape roared angrily and rushed towards Locke. He stopped looking at Narial mountains of magical beasts and looked at the evil ape rushing towards him. Locke said lightly, "Let's end it." Without any worries, Locke decided to use his best skill. As he spoke, a small red ball appeared in his hand. The fireball spell. Seeing the red ball in Locke's hand, Judith and the others on the city wall were stunned. They didn't know what Locke wanted to do for a moment. Did he want to use this magic of level 1 to deal with the powerful level 5 magical beast? Just as they were confused, they suddenly felt another energy appear in Locke's hands. A small green ball appeared on Locke's chest. Another level 1 magic. Looking at the green ball floating in front of Locke, everyone became more confused. They weren't too shocked by Locke's wood magic. After all, they had seen Locke use it just now. Although the power released by these two element balls was much stronger than that of the ordinary level 1 magic, such an element ball was far from enough to attack the level 5 magical beast. Looking at the two small balls in front of Locke, Bryce asked curiously, "Miss Maple, what does the boss want to do?" Judith shook her head and didn't say anything. She just watched quietly and wanted to know what Locke was going to do. Although she hadn't been with Locke for a long time, she knew that Locke was not a reckless person. Locke must have his own reason for using the level 1 magic at this time. On the other side, the evil ape was less than 10 meters away from Locke, but Locke seemed not to see it. He slowly raised his left hand. Under the confused gazes of the crowd, another wave of energy flashed in front of him. First, there were some blue elements. Soon, the blue elements gathered together and formed a blue ball of elements in the blink of an eye. "This is water element," Judith said in a somewhat numb tone, staring at the sky blue element ball. She had successfully controlled two kinds of magic, which was regarded as a genius. Unexpectedly, Locke had successfully controlled 3 kinds of magic elements. First, when facing the powerful level 5 magical beast appeared, Locke fought alone, using both magic and swordsmanship, and now the third magic appeared. The others also stood there motionlessly. They had suffered too much today. No wonder he is so powerful. Bryce looked at Locke with admiration in his eyes. However, just as everyone was excited, they suddenly thought of another question. Even if he had 3 types of magic talent, would it work in front of the level 5 magical beast? This must be the first time that I use water magic in such a long time. Looking at the sky blue ball in his hand, Locke sighed. Although he practiced water magic a lot, it was rarely used in actual combat. But he also knew that it was not the right time to sigh. Under his control, the 3 element balls collided. The balance in the element ball was broken in an instant. The 3 elements, water, wood and fire elements, were filled in a narrow space, constantly colliding, entangling, and bursting out dazzling colorful light. At the same time, violent and destructive power spilled out of the colorful light. If it weren't for the control of Locke, it would have exploded already. Gritting his teeth, Locke's small universe rotates crazily and his body wrapped around the light ball without reservation, restraining the riot in the light ball. Ouch! The evil ape had already rushed to Locke. Its huge palm contained destructive power and directly slapped Locke. Just now, Locke had released a terrifying force. Locke ran fast towards the distance. A dazzling light was emitted from the evil ape's hand. Boom! The evil ape only felt a fierce and irresistible force spreading out from its palm. Then he felt a sharp pain on his palm. It could clearly feel that its palm was being broken by this powerful force, and its bones were also cracking. Ouch! The evil ape let out a painful long howl and suddenly retreated. It knew that the power in front of it had gone beyond its endurance. However, it was too late. Without the suppression of Locke, the energy in the light ball was completely out of control. The energy produced by the collision and tearing of the elements was completely released at this moment. Before the evil ape retreated a few meters, a surging and powerful force enveloped it in an instant. It roared, and the energy in its body poured out without reservation, forming a thick layer of armor around its body. Boom! After devouring the evil ape, the energy produced by the explosion quickly swept around and rolled the nearby magical beasts into it. On the other side, Locke was still running at full speed, but unfortunately, the energy wave produced by the explosion suddenly reached behind him. Too bad. Looking at the energy wave behind him in the blink of an eye, Locke couldn't help cursing in his heart and trying his best to hide far away. Boom! Boom! A few seconds later, Locke was still engulfed by the powerful energy wave. Take it off. This was the last sentence he left before he was swallowed up. Bang! The energy fluctuation produced by the light ball made everyone on the city wall take a step back. Looking at the surging energy of the explosion in front of them, everyone was incomparably shocked. Find the newest novels on velbent.com. A minute later, the energy gradually disappeared. When they saw the scene under the city, everyone was shocked, as if they were dreaming. It was a huge pit about 100 meters wide. In the center of the pit, the evil ape was badly mutilated and its breath was weak. It seemed that it would most likely die. In addition to the evil ape, there were also some broken limbs of magical beasts. Most of the magical beasts were directly annihilated in the powerful energy, and even the corpses were not left. On the periphery of the crater lay a scantily clad human. Obviously, it was Locke who was engulfed by the energy wave. Is it all Locke Capet's fault? Looking at the terrifying scene below, many people still felt very dreamy. Shocked and frightened, they only saw a person jump down from the top of the city wall. With the help of the wind magic, Judith floated over the heads of magical beasts and soon arrived at where Locke was. Ahem. Coughing, Locke sat up from the ground. The god of creation is still alive. Locke Capet. Locke Capet. Seeing that Locke was still alive, the people on the city wall cheered. At this time, the remaining magical beasts also slowly approached the pit. In the pit, Locke touched his face quickly and found that there was no wound on it. He breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Fortunately, my handsome face is not injured." Hearing this, Judith rolled her eyes. At this time, what he cared about was whether there was anything wrong with his face. At the same time, Locke suddenly felt the ground shake slightly. Evil ape. Locke instantly found out the source of the shock. With the help of Judith, he staggered to his feet. Looking at the evil ape struggling in the distance, he said in a surprised tone, "It's not dead." Ouch. The evil ape struggled to stand up and stared at Locke with hatred. Its roar was filled with endless anger. The magic energy surged in front of Judith, ready to deal with the evil ape's attack at any time. The evil ape is still alive. Boss, run! Bryce shouted loudly on the city wall. The others on the city wall also became nervous in an instant, with sweat gradually oozing from their palms. Boom! Under everyone's astonished and nervous eyes, the evil ape's body slowly fell down. Finally, the evil ape was dead. Swoosh! Seeing that the evil ape had completely lost its vitality, Locke breathed a sigh of relief. Judith, who was next to Locke, was obviously startled by the evil ape. Seeing that the evil ape had died, she looked around at magical beasts, stretched out her hand and said to Locke in a deep voice, "Hold me tight." Locke nodded. The blow just now had consumed all the divine power in his body, which meant that he was not much stronger than ordinary people now. However, what made Judith speechless was that Locke ignored her hand and held her waist. "What are you doing?" Judith glared at Locke. As for Locke, he ignored Judith's warning and held her even tighter. After all, it was rare to get close to a beautiful woman. A gentle breeze blew Judith's hair. A faint fragrance went into Locke's nose along with her hair, which made Locke sniff more. He clearly felt that Judith's body stiffened when he put his hands around Judith's waist. He didn't know what Athena was doing. Suddenly, Locke thought of Athena, who was far away in Naden City. At the same time, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If she were here, she wouldn't be so embarrassed. Seeing Locke's shameless look, Judith took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to throw Locke away. Gritting her silver teeth, she activated the wind magic again. Locke only felt that a force supported his body and slowly rose into the air. In this way, the two came to the midair 10 meters away from the ground. Although she had successfully moved away from the ground magical beasts, Locke also found that the surrounding wind elements seemed to be a little unstable. For Judith, it was difficult for the two to stay in the air. It seemed that she still needed to practice wind magic. Looking down at the magical beasts, Locke thought to himself. However, magical beasts on the ground did not choose to attack the two. They looked at the dead evil ape in the distance and then looked at Locke in the sky. The fear in their eyes gradually increased. Ouch! With a low groan, a magical beast turned around and ran away in the direction of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. The rest of the magical beasts also turned around and ran towards the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. Seeing that magical beasts had retreated, Judith breathed a sigh of relief in the air. Although she could stay in the sky for a short time with the help of the wind magic, she couldn't hold on for long with her current magic power, not to mention that she was not alone now. We win. We win. Magical beasts retreated. Long live Locke Capet. On the city wall, seeing that magical beast and the others retreated towards the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts, everyone shouted excitedly. Puff. Judith and the two slowly landed on the ground. It's time to let go. When Locke was enjoying, he suddenly heard Judith's cold voice. Locke smiled awkwardly and loosened his grip on Judith's waist. On the other side, the city gate had been opened. People cheered and rushed out of the city gate. Mr. Capet, on behalf of all the people in Dika's city, I express my highest respect to you. Looking at Locke, Castell and Peggy said in an excited and respectful tone. The others also looked at Locke respectfully. Bryce and the others looked at him with admiration. Locke shook his head with a smile and said to Castell and Peggy, Mr. Ralph, I need a practice room to recover magic power now. Castell and Peggy nodded and immediately arranged room practice for Locke. After exhorting Bryce and the others to have a good rest, Locke went straight to room practice. Although they beat back the magical beast, Locke didn't feel much relieved. Now the biggest threat was not magical beasts, but the two people who had appeared before. Therefore, he needed to quickly recover his strength so that he would have confidence. After the storm, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The Nariel Mountains of magical beasts and the Dika's city were shrouded in the white moonlight. That night, except for a small number of people who stayed on the city wall to defend themselves, the others all went back to rest. After a day's battle, both physically and mentally, everyone had reached extreme exhaustion. In the practice room, whoosh, Locke slowly opened his eyes and finished practice. After a night's recovery, most of the divine energy in his body had been restored. What made him happier was that after the battle with the evil ape, the previous situation had been eased, and the small universe seemed to have a sign of wanting a breakthrough. She might be able to get a breakthrough in a few days. After all, a breakthrough was not an easy thing. Most of the time, it seemed okay, but maybe it would be stuck in a certain state for several months, so he was not 100% sure that he could get a breakthrough in a few days. So he decided to do something more important now. Locke stood up and walked out of the practice room. He took a deep breath, jumped up and came to the roof of the practice room. The practice room was located on the highest building in the city. Standing here, one could see the whole city. Under the moonlight, all the buildings seemed to be covered with a layer of white gauze. The shadows of the buildings were mixed with the bright moonlight. The light and shadow intertwined, making Dika's city look more like a city in fairy tales. No one would have thought that the city was still in danger during the day. With these thoughts in his mind, Locke jumped up again and gently landed on the roof of another building. When he jumped towards the city wall, he could only see a black figure rapidly moving on the roof of a building in Dika's city. After meeting these two men in black robes, he was more and more worried about the safety of Badal, so he planned to go to the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts alone to investigate. Of course, he was not a reckless person. Although there were two mysterious men in black robes in the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts, with the help of divine consciousness, he could find them as long as they took any action, so he had the ability to protect himself. However, 1 minute later, Locke had to stop. Looking at the tall figure in front of her, Locke smiled awkwardly. You are still awake." The tall man didn't answer Locke's question. Instead, she glanced at Locke and asked slowly, "Where do you want to go?" "I'm bored, so I'm going to take a walk in the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts." Being stared at by Judith, Locke felt a little guilty. However, Judith seemed to have already seen through Locke's mind. She reminded him lightly, "Locke, although you can defeat the level 5 magical beast, according to the information from the Academy, there is still a stronger existence in the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. The news that we have been trapped in the Dika's city has been received by the Naden city and the Shalar Magic Academy. What we need to do now is to guard Dika's city and wait for the support of the outside world." Locke took a step closer to Judith slowly and stared at Judith's eyes. With an evil smile on his face, he asked, "Are you worried about me?" Because of the lesson from last time, Judith was more careful this time. After confirming her safety, she took a step back secretly. Looking at Locke's cynical face, she said coldly, "I'm just afraid that you will die outside. I can't explain it to the Dean." Locke moved closer to Judith and asked with a snicker, "Really?" He found it interesting to tease Judith. The two were on the roof. There was not much room for Judith to retreat. As Locke approached, there was no room for her to retreat. At such a close distance, she felt a masculine aura rushing towards her. Seeing the embarrassing look on Judith's face, Locke smiled slightly, as if he had succeeded in playing a trick on her. Noticing the snicker on Locke's face, Judith realized something. She was fooled by Locke again. Her face turned colder. She gathered the magic energy in front of her and was about to kick Locke down from the roof. "Ha ha, I'm leaving now. This beautiful lady, enjoy the moonlight by yourself." Before Judith could condense the magic, Locke turned around and ran towards the city wall in a few flashes. Looking in the direction of Locke, Judith gritted her teeth and let out a cold snort. However, when she looked at the disappearing figure of Locke, there was still a flash of visible worry in her eyes. Most of the people had gone back to rest, and the guards on the city wall were not highly vigilant, so it was easy for Locke to find a place without anyone around. He jumped down from the city wall, hid his aura, and then ran towards the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. Early in the morning mist in the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts hadn't dissipated. The warm sunshine shone on the mountains, making the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts look full of vitality. However, only Locke knew that it was just an illusion. If you entered the forest of the magical beast mountain, you could find the corpses of magical beasts everywhere. Obviously, the magical beast fought again after they left Dika's city and returned to the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. Locke stood up and continued to run deep into the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. His figure quickly passed through the dense forest. Last night, he left the city. After 2 hours' journey in the jungle, he continued to recover the divine force in his body. At present, the strength in his body had almost recovered. It was the second day that Locke entered the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. Locke stood on a dry tree trunk and looked into the distance with a serious face. In front of him, the ancient trees had completely withered, and corpses of magical beasts were everywhere on the ground. In the distance was a peak inserted into the sky. This lifeless mountain was the residence of Badal. After a while, the divine consciousness worked and Locke looked weird. In the north, he felt strange energy that caused the riot of the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. It seemed to come from that place. Moreover, the energy was so magical that it could isolate Locke's divine consciousness so that Locke couldn't detect anything in it. After confirming that there were no other creatures around, Locke gently walked in the direction of the energy. Half an hour later, Locke finally arrived at the place not far from the energy. Through the gaps between the leaves, a huge energy windstorm in the shape of a tornado could be seen faintly. What was this? Suppressing the surprise in his heart, Locke continued to move forward. When he saw the energy windstorm, even Locke felt that he was in a good mood and was shocked. There was a magic array about 50 meters wide in front of them. The magic array was extremely complicated. In the middle of the magic array was a huge dark brown star, which was filled with mysterious and complicated runes. These runes were emitting dim light. In the center of the star, there was a mass of black energy floating, which was the center of the energy windstorm. From the magic array, Locke felt an extremely dark aura. No, it should be evil, which was even eviler than the dark mage he had met before. With the magic array as the core, a mysterious power spread out. It was the power that caused the riot of magical beasts in the Nariel Mountains of magical beasts. What the hell is this? Looking at the magic array, Locke was confused. He had never seen such a magic array before. But he was sure that it was not something good. Moreover, when he saw the magic array, he He also found that the auras of the two mysterious people were very similar to that of the magic array. Find new chapters on Note, LB and Com. After finding that, Locke became more cautious. It was very likely that these two mysterious people might be nearby. When he was observing the magic array, he suddenly found a special thing, a powerful force of blood vitality. The blood vitality continuously entered the magic array from the left. Confused, Locke fumbled in the direction of the blood vitality. 2 minutes later, Locke took a deep breath again. There was still a magic array in front of him, in which lay a dying giant figure.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and see you in the next chapter.